coming up next on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball is presented by AT&T Uverse TV. Well, welcome to South Texas. It is Houston in Minute Maid Park, where the Rangers and the Houston Astros get set to lock horns in Game 2 of this 3-game weekend series. And welcome in, everyone, along with Tom Greaves, Steve Busby. Glad you could join us for this Saturday night of Rangers and Astros baseball right here on Fox Sports Southwest. And Yu Darvish back to a very familiar mound. He's had some success here in Houston, and he looks for more here tonight.
Well, you know, he's pitched pretty well against the Astros. Actually, he's pitched pretty well against everybody except maybe the Oakland A's. He's pitched okay in our ballpark. Something about this ballpark that he really loves. He's 3-0 in this ballpark, and when you watch his pitches, they just look a little bit crisper in this ballpark. And I guess it's that way for a hitter and a pitcher. You've got your favorite places to hit. You've got your favorite places to pitch, and this is one of them for Yu Darvish. He's just about untouchable here. When you look at his overall statistics, his opponent's batting average is below 100. His strikeout to walk ratio, 37-4. The numbers pretty much speak for themselves, and the record is obviously very good here.
All right, the Astros have had trouble making contact a little bit the last couple of years, and while when Yu Darvish is on the mound, that seems to be amplified quite a bit. So hopefully for the Rangers, he'll be on again tonight. We'll come back with more from Minute Maid Park right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. The Ford Summer Spectacular Sales Event, now playing at a Ford dealer near you. By AT&T Uverse TV. Find out what's possible with AT&T. Call 1-800-PIC-ATT, mobilizing your world. And by Southwest Airlines. Find Southwest Airlines fares online only at southwest.com. Back in the great indoors, it is Minute Maid Park. Rangers and Astros getting set to kick off Game 2 here tonight. And a guy that has really been a pain in the side of the Rangers this year, helping the Astros to win 6 straight over Texas, has been Robbie Grossman. And he has been just a real pest to try and get out.
Yeah, you know, Robbie Grossman is really not having that great a year. He's hitting right around 200, but you'd never know it by the way he's playing against the Rangers. He's had 5 home runs this year. We're going to see 3 of them that came against the Rangers. The first 2 in our ballpark left-handed, and in last night's game, right-handed to left field. Now, he's been up 51 times. That's the first extra base hit that he's hitting all season long right-handed. And it would figure that it would come against the Rangers, a team he's 10 for 22 against. That's a .455 average. So he has pounded Ranger pitching. He hasn't done much against anybody else, and hopefully that won't continue tonight against Yu Darvish.
Yeah, and Yu Darvish trying to find an answer to Robbie Grossman and the Astros. Rangers looking to even this series up. We'll come back with the starting lineups and the first pitch right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. That matter. I like that here. That's that Ranger blue. Rangers trying to get even in this series and snap a 6-game losing streak they have to the Astros. That's in the history of this series against the Rangers, or against the Astros. The Rangers have never lost this many consecutive, so they will try to snap that losing streak here tonight, leave it at 6. And here's the Rangers starting lineup brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Shin-Soo Choo, the DH, leads off. He's followed by Elvis Andrus. Then the left fielder, Mike Carter. Adrian Beltre bats cleanup and plays third. Jim Adduci is in right field. J.P. Arancibia bats sixth and plays first. Leonis Martin in center. Giovanni Soto is catching. And batting ninth, the second baseman, Rougned Odor.
And the scouting report brought to us by Sonic for Scott Feldman. He's had 20 starts this year. He has a losing record, a pretty good ERA. Quality starts in 6 of his last 8 outings. Excellent outings in his last 2 starts. Sunday against Toronto, he had his 3rd career complete game. 8 hits and only 1 run. And the start before that was an excellent start as well. And the start before that, he pitched against Oakland, 7 innings, 5 hits, and only 1 run. So 16 innings in his last 2 starts, and a total of only 2 runs on a pretty good roll.
Well, Scott Feldman out there tonight, and we'll take a look at the Astros defense brought to you by Progressive. Behind Scott Feldman tonight, you have Mark Krause in left. Jake Maristic is in center, and Robbie Grossman is right. Don Singleton, the first baseman. Gregorio Petit starts at second in favor of the injured Jose Altuve. Marwin Gonzalez in short. Matt Dominguez is at third. Jason Castro is catching. And the 31-year-old right-hander Scott Feldman is on the hill. Now with a 6 o'clock start down here, the sun making its way in through the windows in left center field. Sun will be setting. Those shafts of light will be dissipating as the game wears on. About another hour or so, they'll be completely off the field. But for right now, the right side of the diamond, guys have to deal with that a little bit looking in toward home plate. Shin-Soo Choo, the DH, starts things off. Scott Feldman into the wind. The first pitch of the game tonight is a strike with a cut fastball. Choo at 241, 10 home runs, 36 runs driven in, and just 1 for 17 against Feldman in his career. Jim Wolf calling the balls and strikes. Wolf recognized as one of the best ball strike umpires in the game. 1-1 pitch. Hit well to left center field. That is up the alley. It's going to the wall. And Choo, as he did last night, reaching to start the game off, taking this ball to left center field with authority.
Well, Shin-Soo is gradually starting to swing the bat a little bit better. He's 5 for 15 coming into the game in his last 4 games. Feldman was kind of pounding him in the first couple of pitches in this at-bat, and then hung a curveball out over the plate. And that was right exactly where Shin-Soo could appreciate it, and he drove it into the gap in left center field. Scott went away from the hard in and threw him something soft, and he ripped it.
Well, Choo started off last night with a single. Tonight it's a double, and here's Elvis trying to at least move Choo over to third base. Take strike 1. On Wednesday afternoon in Chicago, the same situation came up, and Elvis tried to push a bunt towards second base. It ended up being a sacrifice, but he got the job done as far as advancing Choo.
Well, Elvis is hitting really well the last couple of weeks. I'd rather see him try to drive him in.
Well, Elvis laid down a sacrifice in the first last night, and last night he had his 13-game hitting streak snapped.
His first time up, he might have gotten hit and kept it going.
Could have. Last 14 ball games, almost a .360 average for the Rangers shortstop. Feldman set. The 1-1. Chopper slowly out towards short. That'll get Choo over to third. Gonzalez throws out his counterpart, Elvis Andrus. Well, Elvis gets the job done. Choo at third with 1 out. Mike Cart coming up.
No, Mike Cart getting a chance to bat third tonight in the Ranger lineup, and he's playing left field. He had a big hit in the rally that came just a little bit short in the 9th inning last night. He had a line drive, pinch hit line drive to left field for a base hit. Well, a good opportunity tonight against Scott Feldman.
Carp had an RBI pinch hit single last night, driving in that run in the 9th inning. Rangers, however, fell a run short at 4-3. Astros win. And the first pitch, Scott Feldman coming up and in to Mike Carp. Carp overall a 198 average, as you saw. Feldman will work from the wind with Choo at third base. Infield playing back. Carp a rip and a miss. That evens the count. Astros a couple of steps around to the right for Mike Carp. All positions back at normal depth. They will give up the run for the out. Feldman's next pitch. Got him on the fist. And that foul ball will take 1 hop off the warning track. into the seats and move the count to a ball and 2 strikes.
Now, when you see the record that Scott has had in his last 2 starts, 13 hits and 2 runs in 16 innings, probably a pretty good indication that that cut fastball is working well to the left-hand hitters, meaning he can get it in on their fists. And when he's throwing well, he's very good at accomplishing that.
And that going up the ladder, Clark couldn't reach it. A big strikeout for Feldman. There's now 2 out.
You can see the catcher, Jason Castro, get the target high. That's what he wanted Scott to throw. He threw it pretty much exactly where he was looking for it. Tempting enough to swing at, but high enough to where it's a little out of the strike zone and difficult to hit.
And Clark not a happy camper at the moment. You can understand why. Here's Beltre with 2 outs. The breaking ball is in the dirt. Castro has to drop down to his knees to block that ball. Adrian at .319 with the average, 16 home runs, 61 driven in. About a .250 hitter against Scott Feldman, 24 at bats for Beltre. Feldman to the wide, the 1-0 pitch. That hits the outside corner. Adrian Beltre in this ballpark. Now 34 games into his career at Minute Maid has batted .322. Look at what he's done against the Astros this year in 7 games. Almost a .390 average. He finds himself now down on the count to Feldman in a ball and 2 strikes. I mentioned the Rangers with a 6-game losing streak against the Astros. That is the longest losing streak in the history of this rivalry. The longest before this had been 4 consecutive games. This shooting past that. 2-2 now to Beltre. This year, Astros have won 7 of the 10 matchups thus far, and they've won 3 of the 4 here at Minute Maid Park against Ron Washington's club. Cole Porter is guiding the Astros to a team that looks like it's going to shoot by their win total of 52 last year. They have 48 right now. Beltre drive to left field, coming on is Krause. The ball hangs up for him, and Mark Krause able to make the catch. Well, Beltre hit it hard. Rangers come up empty though. 1 hit and 1 left. After a half inning, Rangers nothing. Astros coming up. Waste a leadoff double from Shin-Soo Choo in that first inning. He is stranded at third, so Rangers held scoreless. Now the Astros coming to bat, and here's the lineup that will face Yu Darvish tonight. Robbie Grossman leads things off. Jason Castro is catching, batting second. Chris Carter's the DH. Mark Krause bats cleanup, plays left. John Singleton is first. Matt Dominguez is next. Then it's the shortstop Marwin Gonzalez, followed by the center fielder Jake Maristic, and batting ninth, Gregorio Petit, the second baseman.
Sonic scouting report for Yu Darvish. 21 starts, nice record, excellent ERA, the 8th best ERA, 2.82. Last 4 starts, very good, 2-1. Nice strikeout to walk ratio, 33 strikeouts in his last 4 starts, only 6 walks. And on the season, it's almost 4-1 strikeouts to walk. That ratio is the best of his career. Strikeouts are up there where they always are, and the walks are down a little bit this year.
Now, Yu Darvish came into the season with the stated goal of getting deeper into ball games more consistently, and done a pretty good job of getting that done. Kept his pitch counts more manageable, I think, this year, and he thought that a big part of that would be mastering the fastball, the command of the fastball, and that has certainly evidenced itself in the majority of his starts. Well, Robbie Grossman leading things off tonight. Takes the place of Jose Altuve. Altuve left last night's game with some soreness in his neck, and evaluated today, and he's held out of today's contest. May miss tomorrow also. We'll have to wait and see. 1-0 pitch is chopped foul outside first. That evens the count now at 1-1.
I bumped into Altuve in the tunnel coming into the ballpark today. He went down working out and asked him how his neck was. He said it felt pretty good. So might be today, tomorrow, or the next day that tomorrow or the next day that he's back in the lineup. But had a smile on his face. Looked like he was feeling pretty good.
Breaking ball from Darvish. That bends over the inside corner. 1-2. Obviously, the neck good enough to be gesturing, emphasizing what he was talking about. Time called as Grossman backing out. Grossman at 203. Against the Rangers, we showed you that 455 average, 169 against everybody else. High in the air down the left field line. It is slicing and going back into the seats. Mike Carp over there to take a look. Not a whole lot of foul territory once you get down that left field line, or the right field line for that matter. About 5, maybe 6 feet at the most. Now still 1-2 to Grossman. A good look down in the left field corner.
Grossman's only hitting 200, but he's got a decent on-base percentage because he walks a lot. He's walked 36 times. He's been up 192 times. He'll strike out a little bit too much for a guy that's going to try to hit at the top of the lineup and get on base, but he does walk. He looks like a home run hitter against the Rangers.
That he does. Babe Grossman.
Mentioned last night he hit a home run against the Rangers right-handed. It's the first extra base hit that he's had right-handed the whole season. Over 50 at bats.
Darvish okays the sign from Soto. Now the 2-2 pitch. A little tapper foul. We'll try it again. Yu Darvish at 10-6. Rangers have gone 13-8 in his 21 starts this year. That number falling off a bit of late. They had won 10 of the first 12 starts that Darvish had. Another 2-2. And another foul ball. Well, it's going to be at least an 8-pitch at bat for Darvish against Robbie Grossman. Soto sets that target inside. The 2-2 pitch missed outside. Oh, full count. Grossman trying to get aboard to start things off here in the first for the Astros. Jason Castro, the catcher, will follow. Astros with a big 3-run 8th inning last night. A come from behind win. Payoff pitch from Darvish is fouled away. Will be at least a 10 pitch at bat. Grossman doing a pretty good imitation of a good leadoff hitter. Seeing a lot of pitches and making it tough.
Well, he hadn't come close to hitting the ball hard or putting it in play, but he's definitely seen a lot of pitches.
That ball hit high in the air down the right field line, but it's hooking and going foul. Ball kind of got in on Grossman, didn't hit it off the good part of the bat, but it was well foul at the same time. That ball down toward the trademark. And pitch number 11 of this first at bat of the night. High ball 4. Well, that is a working man's walk by Robbie Grossman. Now let's take a look at the Ranger defense tonight. It's delivered to you by DeMontron RV. Outfield of Carp in left, Martin in center, Adducci is in right field. Sebi at first, Odor and Andrews up the middle, Beltre at third, Soto catching, and Darvish is on the hill.
So that last pitch that Grossman took is a pretty good example of why he can work a lot of walks. He doesn't swing at a lot of bad pitches. That one was fairly tempting, but on a 3-2 pitch he was able to take it, saw a lot of pitches, worked a walk.
Well, Grossman at first, nobody out. Here's Castro. He wasn't waiting around. He had a pretty good idea what he wanted and swung through it. Nothing in one. Castro at .231. 11 home runs, 43 driven in, and not much success against Darvish, just 2 for 15. Inside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Castro, since going into the number 2 spot in the order, that was 12 games ago, he's been a .311 hitter. The numbers right there, 11 for 45. Seems to have settled into a spot in the order that suits him very well. Breaking ball swung on and missed, and he gets by Soto, so down to second goes Grossman.
Bounced in front of Giovanni. He went to block it, just bounced right over his glove.
A wild pitch. Yeah. Well, the wild pitch gets Grossman to scoring position. Count is 1 ball and 2 strikes now to Castro. Darvish a check of second. In the dirt, and this one is blocked by Soto. Giovanni Soto getting a little work on pitches in the dirt. That block preventing Grossman from getting to third. 2-2. See the extent of the sun now. Completely in the sunlight. Yu Darvish, the hitter and catcher, in the shade, so a difficult lighting situation. Grossman led off with a walk, went to second on the wild pitch. Castro trying to at least move him over to third. Rangers playing him around to the right side as Darvish checks second. Still 2-2. Darvish already up to 16 pitches here in the first inning, and he does not have an out. On Washington, you remember last night with Miles Michaelis going into a problem spot in the second inning, went out there. Pitch low and outside. For the second straight hitter now, Darvish has run the count full. Carter hitting, or I should say Castro hitting second. Carter, the DH, is waiting in the on-deck circle. Darvish will look back at second. Now the payoff pitch. Breaking ball, called strike 3.
That's the same pitch that he threw Grossman on the 3-2 count, only this one curved into the strike zone. The one to Grossman never broke down and into the strike zone. This one comes in and catches the top of the strike zone.
Well, Castro caught admiring that breaking ball from Yu Darvish. One out. Chris Carter now the DH steps to the plate. Carter with his 25th home run of the year last night. Ball one. Carter, since the beginning of July, now has a dozen home runs. That leads the major leagues. Overall, a .225 average, 1 for 14 against Yu Darvish. Pitch is a little bit low. It's 2-0. Carter with Grossman at second base and one out. Ahead of the count, 2 balls, no strikes. Now 3 balls and no strikes. Yu Darvish, a little bit of a struggle here in the first inning. Already 21 pitches. He was using up a pretty good portion of his allotment very quickly. High ball 4. 4-pitch walk puts Carter aboard. 2 on via the base on balls, and Mark Krause coming up. Giovanni Soto out there to give a little encouragement to Yu Darvish. They're checking with Rougned Odor and Elvis Andrus to see who was going to cover the bag in case a ball is hit right back to the mound on the double play.
Kind of a frustrating start for Darvish, and it began with Grossman, and Grossman's pesky at bat. He fouled off a lot of pitches and saw a lot of pitches and ended up walking. Moved up on a wild pitch. Now Darvish trying to pitch out of a little jam. I just think if Grossman had gone down quickly and easily put one of those balls in play, it might have been an entirely different inning for you.
Darvish able to get strike 1 to Mark Krause, a 194 hitter. Yeah, it does have 6 home runs and has driven in 19. Krause recalled the last time from AAA back on the 23rd of July. A good swing and a miss on the breaking ball. So Darvish now with the advantage very quickly at no balls, 2 strikes. Krause has put together that 3-game hitting streak encompassing that 3 for 8. One of those 3 a home run. 2 on with 1 out. Got him swinging. A couple of pretty good breaking balls, and Krause gone on 3 pitches. Strikeout number 2 here in the first inning. John Singleton coming up.
He looked there with a couple of men on, maybe a little over anxious, trying to make something happen early in the ball game. Take advantage of the opportunity you've got, batting fourth with a couple of men on, and kind of played right into Darvish's hand. Got him to swing at some pitches that weren't quite in the strike zone.
So it has been walk, strikeout, walk, strikeout. See if we can break that pattern right here against Singleton. By the dive of Odor into right field. Around third comes Grossman, and he will score. Just like that, John Singleton bangs the first pitch into right center for the RBI single. The Astros jump out in front, 1-0. That wasn't what I had in mind, breaking that pattern that had been set up.
Well, the first pitch he throws is right in the center square, and Singleton is obviously going up there swinging. And he got Krause to swing at pitches out of the strike zone with a couple of men on, and then to Singleton, he grooved him a fastball, and Singleton was ready for it.
Here's Bat Dominguez. He takes the first pitch low for ball 1. Now Dominguez has had a pretty good degree of success against Darvish. 3 home runs of the 4 hits he's had against the Ranger right-hander. Just .235 average, but 3 home runs. He had 2 in 1 game here. It's the breaking ball that hits the inside corner. 1 ball, 1 strike. Dominguez overall this year, 13 home runs, 47 driven in. First and second, a run across with 2 outs. Darvish back to the plate. 1-2. Darvish this year, the best opponent's batting average with runners in scoring position. Opponents hitting just 161 coming into play against Darvish with that situation arising. 1-2 pitch. Chapter over the mound. Odor flips to Anderson, can't hang on to it. Here comes Carter around third. He will score. As the Rangers up the middle tried to get a little fancy and didn't make the play. Carter just kept on going around third, and he's able to score to make it a 2-0 Astro lead.
It's going to be a pretty close play at second base. It's a little tapper, obviously. Odor gets near it. Elvis tries to barehand it. I think if he caught it, it would have been a bang-bang play at second, but I think the Rangers might have gotten the out at second. But he wasn't able to catch it on the error. Carter comes all the way around to score.
It's going to be ruled an infield single for Dominguez. No RBI on the error, allowing the run to score. And here's a ground ball that Elvis has to field deep in the hole. The throw, and he got it. Nice play by Elvis, who got screened out by the runner Singleton at second base. So that'll do it for the Astros. They scored twice, though, and leave 2 on to the second. 2-0 Houston. To collaborate with Stand Up to Cancer, a groundbreaking initiative created to accelerate innovative cancer research that gets new therapies to patients quickly in order to save lives right now. For more information, visit foxsportsupports.com. Jim Adduci getting set to lead off against Scott Feldman here in the top of the second. Feldman of the Astros leading 2-0 after another eventful and not pretty bottom of the first inning. Well, the Rangers defensively. The first pitch to Adduci is a strike. Jim, a .226 average. No home runs, 5 driven in. He has had another rough road trip. And just 1 for 16. Pitch inside. And Adducey pops it up in foul territory. Dominguez coming over and makes the grab. That is out number one. The official score has just changed the error on that play at second base for the Rangers. It originally was given to Elvis, and they've changed it to Rougned Odor. They felt the error should have been on the flip itself and not the missed catch.
Yeah, I'm not sure Elvis expected that throw at second base. It was going to be very close. Odor's best play may have been to go to first base. Dominguez is not a real fast runner. Wasn't a very hard hit ball. It's one of those in between balls. It's going to be a tough play either way. Just the way that Elvis reached up for it with his bare hand, I'm not sure he expected that throw.
There's J.P. Arencibia. 1 out of 9 in his career against Scott Feldman. Arencibia on a pretty good tear as far as pounding the ball out of the ballpark. Gets that pitch, fouls it straight back.
Like a hanging curveball right there. No pitcher in baseball throws a higher percentage of his pitches as curveballs than Scott Feldman. Scott Feldman throws 30% of his pitches are curveballs.
The 1-1. That's low and inside. 2 balls and a strike.
Sonny Gray is second. Scott is 30%. Sonny Gray is something like 26, 7, 28%, somewhere around in there.
Arencibia waiting. Feldman back to him. That fastball in, and JP couldn't get the head of the bat out. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Arencibia, 8 home runs, 28 driven in.
That's a nasty pitch, the way it comes right back about 3 or 4 inches toward his fists right at the end.
Feldman a long look in, a little too long as far as Arencibia is concerned. Now Feldman to the wind. Tried the outside corner. That's that cut fastball, and it just missed. A full count to Arencibia. JP trying to get aboard with 1 out here in the second. Leonis Martin, the Rangers center fielder, will follow in the order. Feldman nods in agreement. And maybe had second thoughts. Now he's ready. The payoff pitch is coming. Ball 4. Arencibia cooks the 1-out walk. He is aboard. Leonis Martin coming up. Well, folks, the next Evening with a Legend, presented by Capital One Bank, will feature Rangers Hall of Famer Ivan Pudge Rodriguez. That's coming up Saturday, September the 6th. Guests will pose for photos with Pudge. Hear him in an exclusive question and answer session and get tickets for the Rangers game that night. To purchase tickets, visit TexasRangers.com/foundation. Here's Martin hitting at 256. Takes that first off-speed pitch outside for ball 1. Leonis 5 home runs, 29 driven in. Pressed into service last night after Alex Rios had to be scratched from the lineup. Rios was going to get the night off against the left-hander, Oberholzer. But Rios is going to be out of the starting lineup anyway, probably this series. May be able to play tomorrow, but that would be a best case scenario. Ron Washington said he was available as a pinch hitter, and he still will be. If he had to play defense, he could for a short period of time, but that ankle is bothering him. Swing and a miss by Martin. Rios hurt that ankle on the turf in Toronto right after the All-Star break. Has been plaguing him since then. Well, he's trying to give it a couple of days, see if he can't clear it up completely. Feldman, the belt high set, a check of first, the 1-2. One hopper to second. To second for one. Back to first in time. 4-6-3 double play, and Leonis Martin is asking for the skipper to come out. He thought that he had beaten the throw to first base. And Ron Washington checking with Tim Bogart before he heads out there.
Didn't look like it from here.
Tim on the phone to Joey Probinski upstairs in the replay room for the Rangers, and Wash is headed out to the field.
You could see Tim Bogart's, he read his lips. He thinks he was safe, so Wash is going to go out and have him take a look at it.
Dana DeMuth, the crew chief, is at first. Not easy with that sun filtering in there.
I couldn't tell either. From up here, I thought it just nipped him. You can tell better from this angle. Well, you can see the sun. You can't tell when the ball goes in the glove.
Pretty tough. Now you see out after the ball, it hit the glove and it popped up a little bit. You can see it then, the background of the black glove. But if that's enough to overturn the call, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And both Dana DeMuth and Tony Randazzo, the second base umpire out there, hooked up with the headsets to the replay command center in New York.
Well, that is, I'm watching it on the scoreboard. It's just about a tie.
Yeah.
Very difficult to tell. I don't know if they'll be able to overturn it or not.
We had one last night that was too close to call, and this call stood.
Took them a while to look at it.
Yep. And I think this may be in the same vein. Like you have said, though, Tom, the runner knows pretty certain if he beat the throw or not. And Leonys Martin immediately threw up his right hand, signaling, "Hey, I beat the throw. Come on out and challenge that."
Yeah, if the runner is perfectly honest, he knows whether he's out or safe. Sometimes before replay, you'd have guys argue when they were out by just a little bit because it was so close and they were upset. But you know when you hear the ball hit the glove and your foot hit the bag, which one happens first. They're looking at it from the same angles we're looking at it, and they haven't made a decision yet. They're going to call him safe.
Call him safe first. Okay. Well, the call is overturned. Enough evidence. The folks at the replay command center said, yeah, he was safe. Able to look through all that glare and see what really happened. Well, the fielder's choice, as it turns out, gets Martin at first with 2 outs. Giovanni Soto will be the hitter.
That was a good call by Martin. Let's see if he can steal second. Score on a base hit. Make it work for him.
Double advantage, that's right. So the inning is extended now. Giovanni Soto, a .286 hitter in limited active time this year. And Feldman will go to work on Leonys Martin. Soto with 1 RBI. He is 0 for 3 last night. Takes that first pitch in for strike 1. Talked about the difficulty the Rangers have had stealing bases. The top 3 base stealers are also the top 3 in caught stealing this year. Leonys Martin has been caught 9 times in 28 attempts. A ball and a strike. Skipper going through the signs, giving it to Gary Pettis at third, who will relay it over to Leonys Martin. You would think with 2 outs he would have the green light if he can get the jump. Feldman, a couple of looks over there. 1-2. Giovanni trying to take that pitch to the right side. Bellman gets the sign. In the dirt. Castro, a nice job of blocking that curveball. Count is 2-2. Soto just 14 at bats this year. 4 base hits. Been, of course, rehabbing from the knee surgery he had to have in spring training. Got that healed, and just a couple of games back, and, a pulled groin muscle that put him back on the disabled list. Chopper out toward short. Gonzalez on the run, and Soto is retired. That'll do it for the Rangers. They get a walk and leave a runner. After 1.5, it's the Astros 2 and the Rangers nothing. To have it shown on one of our upcoming broadcasts. And that's all thanks to the good folks at AT&T. Simply use hashtag Southwest Fan Photo, and your photo might be selected to be aired during the season. We'll have our selection for tonight a little bit later on. Now, Yu Darvish back out to the mound, having given up 2 runs in the first inning, one of them unearned. He will face Dick Marisnick, the number 8 hitter, to start things off. He'll be followed by Petit and Grossman. Marisnick, the young center fielder that Astros acquired from the Marlins. Part of a 6-player deal. Last night, had a couple of hits and 3 times to the plate. Takes the first pitch high for ball 1. Last night, we talked about the number of fly balls to center field. He tied the high water mark for putouts by a center fielder this year in the American League. He had 8 of them last night. Like Ranger hitters were going up there trying to drive the ball to the center part of the diamond, but it wasn't carrying real well out to that huge part of the park.
Yeah, just too much room out there. You can hit it 400 feet and make it look like a routine fly ball.
436 up there at the top of Towles Hill behind that flagpole. And a high pop foul that will reach the seats. Moves the count to a ball and 2 strikes. Darvish, the 27-year-old from Japan, starting tonight for the 22nd time this year. He's in his 3rd full season with the Rangers. Boy, he sawed off Marisnick. He's going to have to hurry, though. Marisnick can run, and he is safe. Darvish couldn't get there quickly enough. He and Aaron Sevilla teamed up about as well as they could, but Marisnick can really scoop down that line, and it's an infield single.
Well, Marisnick had 2 little dinky hits in last night's game too. He had one like that where he got jammed. He had a little dinky ground ball. So if his hands hold up, he might have a pretty good year this year. Otherwise, he's going to go on the DL with some bad thumbs. Ball ate him up, but with his speed, he was able to get himself a base hit. And that's what counts.
Right, Darvish, in an effort to tag the bag with his foot, almost turned his ankle. Kind of an awkward stab at the bag. So 1 on, nobody out. Here's the number 9 man, Gregorio Petit, and he turns on one and rips it foul for strike 1. Petit, as we mentioned, came in last night for Jose Altuve. Took over in the 6th inning. Altuve had to leave the ball game when that neck flared up on him. Petit came in, had a very big RBI double in that 8th inning. Added an extra run after the Astros had already taken a 3-2 lead. Petit made it a 4-2 lead. That turned out to be the important run because the Rangers came up with 1 in the top of the 9th. They had 2 on when the double play was turned to end the game. Oh, 0-2 to Gregorio Petit. Darvish with a high set. Will step off and bluff a throw to first. Marisnick not going anywhere. Nick Marisnick, though, 8 out of 9 in the stolen base category and limited major league playing time. 5 for 5 this year. We're with the Marlins, and Petit, letting the bat head go, and he couldn't make contact. He is gone. That is strikeout number 3 for Darvish, 1 away.
That's when you know a guy is fooled, when he can't hold on to the bat like that. Breaking ball down and away. He has to reach so far for it. The speed of his bat and the way his hands are trying to hold on to the ball, they're just not quite strong enough to hang on to the bat. Did you happen to see what Puig did in last night's game?
Did.
We checked his swing and broke the bat in half.
Swing, snapped it off.
Saw Jim Rice do that a long time ago.
Sure did. Apparently Rice did it more than once. Few people have seen that. There goes Marisnick, and the pitch to Grossman is fouled back. A little hit and run action going for Bill Porter's club, and Marisnick will retrace his steps.
Yeah, that was one where you didn't use any kind of a glide step. And if it's a swing and a miss, then Marisnick probably had a pretty good chance of stealing that base. Grossman's fouled off a lot of balls, and here we go again.
He had a 12 pitch at bat first time up.
Yeah.
Ended up coming around to score the first run of the game first. Next pitch to him is low. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Darvish having to work overtime in the first inning plus. Got Marisnick at first. Lead off infield single, 1 strikeout later. He is still there. 1-1 the count to Grossman, and Grossman asks for time.
.40 pitches for Darvish. Can really use a double play right here.
Darvish is set. Now he will toss to first. Ranger defense up the middle of the infield at double play depth. Maybe a step to the right or so. Marisnick with good speed, inching off the bag. Pulled through the hole on the right side, a base hit. Marisnick will stop at second. That ball hit sharply enough that Adducey could get to it and pulled Marisnick. But first and second now with 1 out. Jason Castro coming up.
Grossman continues his assault on Ranger pitching. Pretty good sinking fastball. Hits it on the ground, but he hit it sharply into right field for a base hit. Now, since Grossman was recalled from the minor leagues 25 games ago, his on-base percentage has been over 40%. So he's hit pretty well, but combined with his walks, he's got a great on-base percentage. A fairly good amount of at-bats, too.
Well, here's Castro, who struck out in the first. And that breaking ball working its way down and into it. And Castro not able to make contact. 0-1. Castro now 0 for his last 6 times to the plate. Going the other way, and that kind of squibbed the foul. 0-2. Take a look at the Ford leaderboard. The leaders in the American League in strikeouts. David Price leading at just 1 below 200. Yu Darvish down there in 4th at 178. That's the updated total for the Ranger right-hander. Felix Hernandez at 186. And Corey Kluber had 10 strikeouts today against the Yankees.
Corey Kluber is quietly having a Cy Young type season.
And that pitch kind of tied up Jason Castro. He has gone on strikes for the 2nd time tonight. 4 strikeouts now for Darvish. And with 2 outs, Chris Carter will come up.
He got him to fish for that curveball in the dirt. Well, Kluber's got the 4th best ERA now after today at 2.46. Right near the top in innings pitched. Top 2 or 3 in strikeouts.
Ball 1 is inside. Chris Carter drew a 4-pitch walk in the first inning. Got runners at first and second. Astros leading 2-0 here in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Darvish a check of second. Misses badly inside. 2-0. Boy, Darvish just can't throw Carter a strike tonight. Giovanni Soto saying, okay, let's focus on me. Focus on that target before you start your motion to the plate. Sometimes pitchers will get in such a rush to deliver the ball, they'll forget to look at where they're trying to throw it. Inside, 3 balls, no strikes. Now, you can tell by the expression on Yu Darvish's face, he's not extremely pleased with himself.
No, I wouldn't think so. That ball's just not going where he wants it to. He's been fortunate that a couple of the hitters, Krause and Castro, have swung at pitches way out of the strike zone.
You need to be careful with this big guy. You give Carter an opportunity to look out over the plate for a fastball, and after he's seen a few and time it, he can hit it as far as anybody. 3-1 with 2 outs and 2 on. Breaking ball up the middle. That's where Odor is. The second baseman on the shortstop side. A second, throws out Carter, and that'll do it. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left. After 2 from Minute Maid, it's the Astros 2 and the Rangers 0. Globe Life Park in Arlington, and to celebrate, the Rangers are offering fans $19.94 prices for select tickets and concessions for the game against the Royals coming up on Sunday, August the 24th. Plus, all adults 21 and older receive a voucher, one voucher, and that's good for a 16-ounce domestic draft beer at the $19.94 price of $3.50. Visit TexasRangers.com/rollback and use the coupon code 1994 to get your tickets. Rougned Odor starting things off here in the Ranger third. Scott Feldman missing with the slow breaking ball. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Odor at .254 for the season, 4 home runs, 24 driven in. Odor hitting in the 9th position in the Rangers lineup. Here's another curveball for Feldman. Tom told you Scott Feldman throws more curveballs than anybody, statistically anyway, because he doesn't throw a slider. Most guys today have both breaking balls, so they don't focus necessarily on one or the other as much. Scott never has thrown a slider.
He throws a cutter, though,
yep.
And there's a good one.
Odor, easy tapper out to John Singleton. 1 out before we go back to the top of the Ranger order. Time for a Mazda game break with John Radigan. John? All right, John, thank you.
There's going to be some great wild card races in September.
Yep.
The Angels have a pretty good lock on one of them right now, either the Angels or the A's, whoever comes in second in the West. But after that, Kansas City, New York, Seattle, Toronto, all within a game and a half of each other right now. National League, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Cincinnati, 2 of those teams will be a wild card team, and there's only 3 games that separate all of them.
0-1 to Chu. Cutter inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Jinsu had doubled the left center field his first time up. That started off the proceedings here this evening, and the Rangers got him over to third with 1 out, but couldn't get him home. 2-1. Chu now with a .243 average as he faces Feldman. Next pitch from the right-hander is on the outside corner. Cutter coming in the back door. 2-2. Fox tracker showing you that outside corner split in half by that last Feldman pitch. Up the middle into center field, a base hit. Chu able to get the head of the bat through on that cutter. Drives it for his second hit of the night. A 1-out single has him aboard, and Elvis coming up.
Pretty good job by Shin-Soo in that at bat with that cutter. 2 for 2 has him 7 for his last 17. Scott tried to get it in, didn't get it in far enough. Allowed Shin-Soo to get a good part of the bat on the ball, get himself a base hit.
Well, the Rangers with 2 hits tonight, both of them off the bat of Shin-Soo Chu. Here's Elvis, rounded out to short in the first, but he tapped out slowly, so that allowed Chu to go from second to third. Elvis got that job done, moving the runner over. Grounds one to the hole at short, off the glove of Gonzalez into left field. Chu will stop at second, and Elvis with the base hit. Rangers back-to-back singles, 2 aboard with 1 out for Mike Carp.
Gonzalez is going to try to make some type of a spectacular play and slide and try to make a play. I don't think he would have had a play. The only play might have been to get Chu at second base, but I don't think he could have done that from that spot.
A 2-on, 1-out. Carp a strikeout in the first.
Another chance with a man in scoring position. Last time it was man on third and 1 out. Now it's first and second with 1 out.
This has been a real sore spot for the Rangers. Runners in scoring position. It seems like it doesn't matter who it's been. club in the last 2 months of play, hitting just .216 in these situations. It's part of the reason that they have not been able to score more than 3.5 runs a game. Out of play to the left. Krause going over to take a look, but that's back into the seats. And the count is 0-2. And the other part for the Rangers is a matter of getting runners into scoring position to start off with. They just on-base percentage has taken a nosedive. They're now 9th in the American League. Start of play, they were 317. Feldman with the 0-2. Carp laying off that curveball. Rangers, the first 7 games of this trip, hitting .238 as a team. They have scored 30 runs, 16 of those coming in that game in Chicago. So in the other 6 games, 14 runs. It's not going to get you in the win column very often. 2 gone. Mike Carp with his second strikeout against Feldman.
That cutter, pretty good hitter's location, but had a little bit of movement on it. I wasn't able to make any contact with it.
So it'll be up to Adrian Beltre if the Rangers are to score here in the 3rd inning. Beltre, it went right on the nose, but right at Mark Krause, the left fielder, first time up. 318, the season average for the Ranger third sacker. Got Chu at second, Andrus at first, both aboard via the single. Ball 1 is outside. Astros, as they have been doing against a lot of the Rangers, going into the overshift on the infield defensively. 3 players on the left side against Beltre. John Singleton, the first baseman, all by his lonesome over there on the right side. 1-0 pitch. 2 balls and no strikes. Adrian Beltre, the best Ranger hitter this year with runners in scoring position at .326 average. But even he has fallen on hard times of late. Just 4 for his last 19. Trying to at least bring Chu home from second base. 2-0 pitch. Over the mound. Charging is Petit, and he will throw out Beltre by a step and a half. That'll do it for the Rangers. No runs. 2 hits, 2 left after 2.5. It's the Astros 2 and the Rangers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Sports Southwest is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Find Southwest Airlines fares online only at southwest.com. And by the all-new Mazda 3 with seamless connectivity. A beautiful shot over the skyline of a setting sun here in Houston. And we go to the bottom of the third inning. Daniel Robertson has taken over in left field now. Mike Karp removed from the lineup. We have not received any word as to potential physical problem for Mike Karp. Struck out both times in the ballgame tonight, but Daniel Robertson out there for him defensively now. And if we hear something about Mike, we will certainly pass it along. Yu Darvish going back to work. His 50th pitch of the night will be the first pitch of the third inning to Mark Krause. And it's high and outside for ball one. Krause a strikeout in the first inning. Krause, Singleton, and Dominguez. The Astros 2 runs on 4 hits. Rangers no runs on 3 hits. Rangers have committed the only miscue of the ballgame defensively. 2-0 now. Darvish giving himself a little pitching tutorial. Mechanics and popping down through that ball, making the motion like I've got to get the ball down, bring it down, finish, reach out, all those things. Ball 3. And he grows more and more frustrated as he snaps at the ball coming back.
You can see the frustration in his body language.
Rio pitch. Darvish ready again, and the 3-1 on the way. 2-hopper down to Aaron Sebia. JP takes it to the bag, and Krause is retired, so a good job by Darvish to come back from a 3-0 count to get the ground out. That's how the third inning begins. Now John Singleton will come up. Singleton drove home the first run for Houston in that first inning and an RBI single. That plated Robbie Grossman from second base. Singleton now 33 runs driven in and batting average up to 192. Pitch is high for ball 1. Singleton, pretty good power numbers. He has become the first Astros rookie first baseman to hit 10 home runs since way back in '91. Jeff Bagwell at 14 in his rookie campaign. And a good chance that John Singleton will reach and maybe surpass that. Bagwell's retired number, he and Craig Biggio and company. Two and 0 the count to Singleton. Check swing roller foul outside third. Singleton not particularly happy with that effort on a 2-0 pitch.
Singleton's got, you're right, Buzz, a 2-0 pitch right down the middle of the plate. You wonder what he was thinking. Now you got to hit that little thing. A little wrinkle in it.
It's a little different animal to deal with.
Singleton has an unusual split as far as hitting lefties and righties. Against left-handed pitching, he's hitting .278. Against right-handed pitching, before this game, he was hitting .155. He had a big hit in last night's ball game against Neil Kotz, a left-handed pitcher.
Swung on and fouled into and out of Giovanni Soto's glove. Well, it remains 2-2. Rio kind of angrily slapping his glove. Why don't you hold on to that thing? He was asking the glove that.
Yeah.
himself.
Not him, no.
Another chopper foul. Now Singleton, as we mentioned last night, a big part of the Astros' future. They signed him to a 5-year deal with 3 additional options held by the club, so potentially an 8-year contract. And that was before he'd ever set foot in the major leagues. He's just 22. He takes inside, runs the count full.
Yeah, the contract is a contract that gives Singleton nice security for a guy that's never played in the big leagues. And from the Astros, if their scouting report on him is correct, that he can be a productive big league player, then they'll get him for a very economical price.
Darvish with a payoff pitch. Check swing. Did he go? No, he did not. Singleton, a well-earned walk, is aboard for the 2nd time tonight. 3rd pass issued by Yu Darvish.
Oh, not even close. Hands moved forward a little bit, but the bat stayed back.
The 1 on 1 out. Now Matt Dominguez, who had the chopper up the middle that Rougned Odor was charged on an error trying to flip to second base. Dominguez got a base hit in the process. He takes inside here. The first pitch is ball 1. So Dominguez has extended his hitting streak now to 6 straight ball games. He's gone 7 for 22. Darvish reading Soto's signs. And a little toss over to first. Astros like to use the hit and run. Bo Porter, a big proponent of everybody in the order being able to do that, or almost everybody. And certainly Singleton, a guy that you would expect be on the move to try and stay out of a double play with Dominguez up there.
Bo's problem with the current team, the way it is on as far as hitting and running goes, every guy in the lineup swings and misses a lot too,
right.
Except for Altuve.
He may use that as a tool to get guys to cut their swing down.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen managers do that. They can take a different type of swing.
Yeah. Darvish, a check over his left shoulder. Now he's ready. Chopper foul at the plate, runs the count to a ball and 2 strikes. Dominguez out. Checking with Pat Listach, the third base coach. John Singleton, the runner at first, 1 out. Bottom of the 3rd inning with the Astros on top, 2-0. Darvish, a long look in. Now he is ready. Got him swinging. Good sharp slider from Darvish. That is strikeout number 5. There are 2 gone. And Marwin Gonzalez coming out.
The Astros have only hit a couple of balls hard. The problem Hughes had is his stuff's been pretty good. He has the 5 strikeouts. Just the command has not been there. Just had to throw a lot of pitches. And the Astros have fouled off a lot of pitches too. A lot of pretty good pitches that maybe sometimes are swings and misses. They're being able to foul a lot of those pitches off and hang in there tonight.
Darvish now will have to deal with Marwin Gonzalez, who I'm sure, as far as you is concerned, not a happy memory. Remember Marwin Gonzalez a year ago, April of 2013, broke up the perfect game bid with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Yeah. Wicked 1-hopper right back through the wickets. Darvish giving up the hit, losing the opportunity for the perfect game and the no-hitter. 0-1 the count to him here. Slow breaking ball. That one just hung a little bit outside. 1 ball and 1 strike. And again, you trying to get his feel for the pitches back to where he wants it. Last pitch could have very easily been called a strike, but it wasn't. Darvish ready for the 1-1. Came right back with the same pitch and got Gonzalez to offer at it.
But to some of the hitters, that's been his best pitch, the curveball out of the strike zone. He's gotten a lot of them to swing at it. He's gotten Krause to swing at it, Castro a number of times.
Darvish getting ready to throw his 70th pitch of the night. It's on the way. A topper foul. Marwin Gonzalez, who was out on a nice play by Elvis Andrus in the first inning. Hanging pretty tough. The pitch totals inning by inning. Pretty rough for you, Darvish. That first inning, 31 of them. He's gone through 21 in this frame. Another 1-2 is coming. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And that has been the problem right there. The fastball command just has not been. Even the ones he's gotten close have been just enough out of the strike zone to not be called strikes or not elicit a swing. Mike Maddox, not much he can do. Coach or anybody.
When he's been successful, it's been with a breaking ball, a slider, or a curveball.
And stayed up a bit, and Gonzalez able to get a piece of it. Yeah, this would be when a pitching coach and a manager, their hands are tied, basically. You've got a veteran guy out there who knows what he's doing and just can't do what he wants to with the baseball. If there was something that Mike could go out and tell you, Darvish, Ron Washington, go out and tell him, they would. It's just one of those things where Darvish has got to find some way to get back to having that feel of the release point being solid. Another 2-2 pitch. Call strike 3. Gonzalez watched that breaking ball go right across the outside corner. No runs, no hits. The Walker left stranded after 3. 2-0 Houston. Wednesday at 10:30 in the morning from 10:30 to 11:30. Come on out to the Whataburger on Sycamore School Road in Fort Worth and meet Jim Adducey. Rangers outfielder will be there signing autographs for you. And you'll also be able to sign up to be a Whataburger What fan and have a chance to win some great prizes. Don't miss this chance to meet one of your favorite Rangers at Whataburger. Jim Adducey is starting off the top of the 4th inning. He fouled out to third his first time up. Scott Feldman with the pitch, misses with the breaking ball, and that evens things up at a ball and a strike. Jim at 222 now. And this road trip has not been kind to him. Just 1 for 17 in the first 2.5 stops. Fouls that next pitch back. It's 1-2. Adducey came back off the disabled list at the end of July. Had that fracture of his little finger on his left hand. As a matter of fact, he fractured it twice. Appeal, no swing. David Rackley, the third base umpire, making that call. He had gotten off to such a great start this year in April for the Rangers. 462 first 9 ball games before that injury. It's flowing in. The count is now full. So Adducey trying to get aboard to start the Ranger fourth. He'll be followed by J.P. Arancibia. Feldman studying the signs. The right-hander rocks into the motion and deals. Payoff pitch. Chopper to first. Singleton will take it to the bag. He outraces Adducey. That is out number 1. Well, here comes Arancibia, who walked his first time to the plate.
I think Scott has filled the role pretty well for what the Astros signed him for. They wanted a veteran starter, a guy that could maybe influence the younger pitchers a little bit. Scott has had 151 career starts. The rest of the guys in the rotation, Keuchel, Peacock, Oberholzer, McHugh, have 8 starts less than that together. So a relatively inexperienced staff except for Feldman.
Yeah, Brent Strom, the Astros pitching coach, raves about Scott Feldman and the personality, his work ethic, the whole deal, dealing with the younger pitchers on the team. And Brent said, you know, he's almost like an extra coach that's productive.
Well, they gave him a pretty good contract. I think it was 3 years, $30 million,
right.
Which, you know, some people might have said, wow, that's a lot of money. But if that's what you get in addition to his performance on the field, then maybe it's money well spent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's value added, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of a contract.
Some guys, all you get is what they do between the lines,
right.
Nothing else. It's nice to get something else, something extra like that you can't put really a dollar figure on.
There's that good moving fastball. So gets Arancibia.
That thing really had some movement on it. Occasionally he'll throw a sinker like that comes into the right-hand hitters that actually looks like a left-handed cutter, or sometimes even a left-handed slider. But
that one
right there, that is some kind of pitch, boy. You get it to move like that.
You know, Feldman, being as tall as he is at 6'6", 6'7", working downhill, that's got to be pretty tough for a right-handed hitter to pick up easily. That ball starts inside and just keeps on moving in there. Coors Light Cold Hard Fact, brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light, second pitcher in Major League history to make opening day starts for both the Astros and the Rangers. And so for the Astros this year, and of course the Rangers back in 2010, that was the year after he was a 17-game winner. The only other, the Express, Nolan Ryan. 1-1 the count to Leonys Martin. There's that big hook. Feldman has the command of that curveball. He's got a great combo of complementary pitches. That thing near the strike zone consistently. Martin 0 for 1, grounded out his first time. 1-2 pitch. Just a bit high. Leonis at 255 overall with the average. Feldman into the wind. That breaking ball hung outside. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Well, Martin can extend this 4th inning. Giovanni Soto is waiting to be next. Feldman tonight has walked just 1. Payoff pitch to Martin. To Hopper, out to Petit. And that'll do it. Scott Feldman has his first 1-2-3 inning. Rangers gone in order in the 4th. After 3.5, the Astros 2 and the Rangers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Hometown kids every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock right here on Fox Sports Southwest, where it's not about the score, it's about the experience. A budding Ranger fan, Ranger red on and with the Ranger blue on, trying to figure out a way to get the offense going here against Scott Feldman tonight. Through 4 innings, Feldman has allowed just the 3 hits. Rangers have been kept off the scoreboard as Yu Darvish has been struggling a bit with his command. He's only allowed 2 runs, one of them unearned in the first. It has been every bit a struggle for the Ranger right-hander.
Well, they scored their 2 runs in the first, Buzz, and Grossman and Carter scored the 2 runs. One was an unearned run, but both of them got on a base on balls. And that really hurt. Singleton had a fairly well hit ball up the middle. Grossman had a well-hit ball to right field. That's it for as far as they had a couple of well-hit ground balls, a couple of jam-shot infield hits. They hadn't done much against him. He's just really been his own worst enemy with the lack of command with his fastball so far.
Jake Marisnick, who had a jam-shot single, his first time up, takes a breaking ball for strike 1. Marisnick, a .222 hitter for the year. Darvish, 75 pitches now tonight. Unusual to see you struggle this long into a ball game without being able to make an adjustment, find something he can throw for strikes. It's just been one of those games where he's tried a lot of different things and nothing has clicked so far. But he's been able to keep the Astros off the board with the exception of the 2 runs in the first.
If he was just depending on his fastball today, it would have been a really long night. Fortunately, he has gotten some strikeouts with his curveball and his slider. Gotten the Astros to swing at some of those pitches out of the strike zone.
And there's one loop to left field. That's in for a base hit. Marisnick in turn. He's going for 2. Here comes a throw from Robertson. They've got him at second base. Daniel Robertson, as all the Ranger outfielders do, gets used to getting to the ball in a hurry and coming up firing strikes to second base.
That was an excellent play by Daniel. Everything right on that play. Got to it quickly and threw a strike to second base right on the bag. Made it very easy for Rubned to catch that ball, perfect top, and then make the tag. It's a race and a base hit. Really close on that play. Good try by Marisnick. You know, he runs really well. Thought he could stretch it into a double. But Daniel made the play on him. Something you don't have to worry about Daniel. You're not going to catch him napping out there.
No.
He's going to be ready to make the play every time. So he can kind of come around the ball so that when he catches it, he's actually coming in and almost toward second base, which let him get a little bit extra on the ball. You take that sharp angle to the ball, then you've got to plant your foot and throw, and you don't have quite as much momentum behind the throw. So everything about that play was done just about exactly the way you would teach it.
Yeah, Gary Pettis, the Rangers base running and outfield coach, does teach it that way. He gets them out there. He gets all the outfielders out there at least once a series. Yeah, they go through taking balls to their left, to their right, coming up and throwing just like that to second base. And we've seen that pay off multiple times this year. 1 ball and 2 strikes to count to Gregorio Petit. He is 0 for 1. Darvish struck him out back in the second. Breaking ball hanging right in the middle of the plate, and Petit fouled it back. Petit a .320 average. Facing Darvish. Yu with 6 strikeouts tonight in the first 3 1/3. He's also given up 5 hits and the 3 walks. And that slow curveball that hung upstairs. That's the first one we've seen in the 60s tonight. 2-2. Darvish next pitch. Petit turning on that fastball. It looks like Gregorio Petit, no matter what you do to him as far as trying to set him up, he's always going to be ready for the fastball. You may get him on breaking balls or what have you. Trying to sneak a fastball by him, and he's going to be ready for it.
He's having a good year at AAA. He had 10 home runs, 19 doubles, hitting almost 385 games at AAA.
Got him swinging. Like the slider down and away.
Second time he's got him to chase that pitch. Last time up, he lost his bat.
7 strikeouts for Darvish. 2 out.
That's a tough pitch to make contact on right there.
Yeah, if you're going to swing at it, that's the problem.
The only way you're going to make contact is do what he did last time. Throw the bat at the ball. Hope you get lucky.
Well, base is empty with 2 away. Robbie Grossman will come up. Grossman has walked and singled. 1 for 1 tonight after a 3 for 3 night last night.
I have seen a guy throw his bat at the ball on purpose and get a base hit. And you know who it is, too. Played for the Royals. Cookie Rojas.
Oh, yeah.
Saw him one time on a hit and run.
Right.
You know, he's trying to protect the runner. The ball is way out of the strike zone, so he couldn't swing at it. He kind of swung and threw his bat at the same time and hit a soft line drive into right field.
Yeah, Cookie every once in a while would do that during DP just to practice.
He practiced.
Yeah, because
that doesn't surprise me about him.
He was used to hit and run a lot.
Yeah. There weren't many players that knew the game and executed the game better than he did.
Yeah.
I mean, you know better than I do. You played with him. He was my manager for part of the year down in Venezuela.
Was he?
Yeah, very well respected in Venezuela. He was a player manager. He managed and played second base for us. So he was our best player and Also our manager.
1-1, the count to Grossman. Foul back. An update on Mike Karp for you. He left due to tightness in his left groin, and he is day to day.
Well, if you've got tightness in your groin, it's hard to swing a baseball bat. Probably was affecting him a little bit.
A ball and 2 strikes. Grossman, well, he is really having some at bats tonight against Darvish. Did last night too. Whoever was out there for the Rangers. But tonight against Darvish, he has been all over every pitch that Darvish has thrown.
Just save the pitches and just throw it underhand to him. And let it just put the ball in play and only take 1 pitch. He's gotten on base every time anyway. There it is, kid. Slap it out there somewhere. Save me 5 or 8 pitches.
Another 1-2.
He's the one of the guys in the lineup that won't swing at those kind of pitches. Yeah. Very disciplined hitter. I mentioned in his last 25 games since his recall, his on-base percentage was well over 40%. And during that time, he's only hitting about 270. But he's walked 18 times in those 25 games. Got an excellent on-base percentage.
Next pitch from Darvish. And that's pulled weakly out to second. So the Rangers are finally going to retire Robbie Grossman in this series. Well, a leadoff hit, but a nice play by Daniel Robertson to throw out Jake Marisnik. 3 up, 3 down, 2-0 Houston. Out the mound to start the 5th inning, and a former home of the Houston Astros, the second home for Houston, the Astrodome, opened in 1965, and originally there was natural grass inside until they painted the ceiling panels that allowed light to go through, and then that killed the grass, so they had to go to the AstroTurf.
Had to invent some grass. I guess they had to paint the roof so you could see the ball when it went up in the air.
The panels were clear to let the light in, and that was a great idea, except when you try to play a day game, you couldn't see the ball at all looking up. Colt 45 is the original name. They played at Colt 45 Stadium first 3 years. Then moved over to the Astrodome in 1965. It was built as the 8th wonder of the world.
It was pretty amazing when they first built it. Now you could take that in the parking lot and put it inside Cowboy Stadium.
1-1 pitch. Giovanni Soto leading off, takes outside. It's 2 balls and a strike. Soto, Odor, and Chu, the first 3 Rangers to do swinging here in the 5th inning. Astros on top, 2-0. Giovanni Soto is 0 for 1 tonight. Pops a pitch high in the air, and that will reach the seats on the right side. Back and out of play. It's 2-2. Giovanni playing in his 6th game for the Rangers this year. It's been kind of a miserable year as far as health is concerned. Giovanni hoping, though, he can get some kind of consistent playing time the last month and 3/4 of the season. He and Robinson Chirinos look like they're going to be pretty much splitting the time behind the plate for the rest of the way. Chirinos, of course, really worked himself into the starting role with a myriad of catchers the first part of the year. And Soto high in the air to center. Marisnick, plenty of time to back a few steps. That is out number 1.
And Ron Washington has said they will both catch. It'd be very difficult to tell Robinson that you're just going to catch occasionally now after the job that he's done. And of course, Giovanni was signed and went to spring training as the guy that was going to be the regular catcher. So they both deserve to play, and they both will play.
So 1 out. Here is the number 9 hitter in the order tonight, Rougned Odor. Odor, a ground ball to first, his first time up there. Feldman with the big breaking ball gets a swing from Odor, who was well, Feldman knows how to use an aggressive hitter's aggressiveness against him. That's exactly what he did with Rougned. Tantalize him with that slow breaking ball. He came up with a fastball right on his fist, and it's 0-2. That's what I mean about the complementary pitches for Feldman. That slow curveball, and you slow a guy's swing down as he tries to adjust for the speed, and then you pop that cutter in on him, especially a left-hander. You've got 2 complementary pitches that are pretty much devastating when his command's good. Chopper foul, and that's about all a left-handed hitter can do with that pitch. Chevy pitch tracker showing you that up and in. Another 0-2. And a strikeout to be completed down at first. Feldman now with 4 strikeouts. 2 up, 2 away. And we'll take the Rangers back to the top of the order for Shin-Soo Choo.
Well, we mentioned before the game how well Scott has pitched in his last 2 starts. Oakland and Toronto. 7 innings, 1 run, 9 innings, 1 run, 16 innings, 2 runs. After that, 4 2/3 of no runs today, and he's on a pretty good roll. Roughly 21 innings and only 2 runs.
He's retired 7 straight Rangers now, and trying to find a way to retire Shin-Soo Choo for the first time tonight. Choo is 2 for 2, a single and a double. Average up to 244. 1-0 pitch from Feldman. 2-0.
Last year, Scott split time, almost perfectly equal time. Same amount of starts, almost the exact same amount of innings with the Cubs and the Orioles. He had a 234 opponent's batting average. That was the 10th best in Major League Baseball. Well, he was coming off a very nice season last year when the Astros signed him as a free agent. He was 12-12 with a 386 earned run average.
Two and one now. That number that Tom was telling you about, 7 out of his last 17 for Shin-Soo Choo. Didn't really want to do it. Feldman, one of the few straight changeups you'll see him throw. And it really wasn't straight.
That wasn't straight either. Watch it goes to the right just like his sinker does.
How about a 3/4 speed sinker? That's about what that turned out to be.
Yeah.
2-2. Breaking ball, got him swinging.
Got it going right now.
Feldman, 8 consecutive and 5 strikeouts for the evening. After 4.5, it's the Astros leading the Rangers 2-0. For the Rangers, brought to you by Progressive. Rangers and Astros finish up tomorrow. It'll be Nick Martinez and Dallas Keuchel. 1 o'clock game right here on Fox Sports Southwest. And Rangers come home to start a 7-game homestand. Tampa Bay Rays in for 4, followed by the Angels. Then it's a quick 2-game set down in Miami. And back home with 3 more against Kansas City. Rangers live tomorrow at 12:30 Central Time. First pitch about 10 minutes after the hour from Minute Maid Park. Jason Castro leading things off here in the 5th inning for the Astros. Castro has had no luck whatsoever this evening against Yu Darvish. He has struck out both times. Once on a called 3rd strike. Last time up, went down swinging at a wicked breaking ball. About right there.
He should maybe take the first pitch. He is so anxious. He's just looking like he's going to, thinking in his mind that he's going to get a fastball to hit, and he's aggressive and he's trying to swing the bat, but Darvish is just playing right into it, throwing that breaking ball down and in way out of the strike zone, and he's swinging at every one of them.
Decided to drop the slow one in, and that's 69 miles an hour. Hung outside. 1 ball and 1 strike. Darvish now up to 92 pitches for the evening. Right-handers next pitch. 1-2. Jason Castro, one of the well, not so young Astros. He's on the younger side as far as catchers go, but he's not really in the 23, 24-year-old bedrock that the Astros have developed. They felt over the winter, though. A lot of teams came calling and needed catching, and they wouldn't talk about Castro unless they'd been overwhelmed. They value him enough around here with his pitching staff, his offensive ability to hang on to him. Darvish ready, another 1-2 pitch. That will even the count. Castro last year had 16 home runs. He has put up 11 this year, so back-to-back double-digit home runs. Just the 2nd catcher in Astros history to be able to make that claim. fouled off. Matter of fact, the other catcher to do it is in the booth right next to us. It would be Alan Ashby. The TV voices and faces of the Astros. There's Alan. Longtime Astros catcher, also with the Cleveland Indians. Took me to the upper deck in Cleveland, as a matter of fact, one day. Yeah. Babe Ashby is what I referred to him as. Blowing in, and Castro able to check his swing on that one. Now the count is full. Castro leading off this fifth inning, trying to get a board in front of Chris Carter, the DH. Castro back in, Darvish on top, checking the signs from Giovanni Soto, nods in agreement. Now the payoff pitch. Up the middle, base hit, and Castro finally got one that he could handle. It was a breaking ball that stayed up on 3-2. He lined it into center. A leadoff single. Carter coming up. Let's take time here for a Mazda game break. Once again, here's John Radigan. All right, John, thank you. Chris Carter has walked and grounded out tonight. First pitch is low, and we'll take a look at the DirecTV standings, talking about the American League Central Division race. Kansas City is right now leading, as a matter of fact, 1-0. Detroit, of course, lost, so a 2-game spread right now. Cleveland 6.5 back, Chicago 9.5 back in that Central. Ground ball through the hole on the left side, a base hit. Castro stops at second. Chris Carter with his first hit of the night. Back-to-back singles open up the fifth inning. And Mark Krause is coming up.
Carter has hit .330 in his last 17 games. And go back a little farther than that. In his last 112 at bats, he's hitting .313. So he has really turned it around from what he had been before that, which was basically a 200 hitter who struck out a lot and hit an occasional home run. Last 120 at bats, he's turned into a pretty good hitter. And he's not sacrificing any power either. In those 120 at bats, he's hit 12 home runs and knocked in 28 runs. Put that into 1 month, and it'll get you the Player of the Month award.
Yeah. 1 calendar month, yeah.
1 calendar month.
Now 2 on, nobody out. Mike Maddox with a visit to the mound, trying to give Yu Darvish a little breather and got him refocused. Mark Krause 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a ground out tonight. Now Castro at second, Carter at first. Astros now with 7 hits against Yu Darvish. And the first pitch is low for ball 1. Nate Adcock, Ranger right-hander, loosening as Yu Darvish is past the 100 pitch plateau with nobody out here in the fifth inning. Krause a 191 average. Got an off-speed pitch and yanked it foul into the second deck down the right side. 1-1, inning by inning. Well, it has not been an inning of a night of economy in any inning for Yu Darvish. Astros have made him work, and Yu has been his own worst enemy with fighting command. Drops that breaking ball in over the outer corner. 1-2 to Krause. Krause, a modest 3-game hitting streak that's seen him go 3 for 8. A Chevy pitch tracker showing me that last one, just nudging the outside corner. 1-2 pitch. Giovanni Soto having to scramble around. 2-2.
It has not been an easy night for Giovanni Soto either. A lot of balls to block tonight. A lot of moving around back there.
Darvish gets the sign. A quick check of second. The 2-2 pitch. A full count. Well, with 2 on and nobody out, Krause has run the string out, and he is trying to join both Carter and Castro by getting aboard. John Singleton, the number 5 hitter, is in the on-deck circle. Darvish ready, and the payoff pitch is on the way. Ball 4. He lost him, down and in, and that will load the bases with nobody out.
Got to be getting close to being it for Darvish tonight. Ross going to stick with him a little bit longer, hoping that he can maybe get a strikeout in the double play and get out of the 5th inning.
Darvish pawing at the dirt in front of the pitching rubber and kind of shaking his head in disgust. 106 pitches now, with just 66 of them for strikes. Singleton has been on both times tonight. He singled his first time up, walked last time up. That was in the 3rd. Bases full, nobody out here in the Astros 5th. 1 ball, no strikes as Darvish is very high with that first pitch. Singleton, a 192 average, 10 home runs, 33 RBI. His 33rd came in the 1st inning. 1-0 pitch to him. Oh, he lashed that pitch foul off the screen in front of the Astros dugout. That got a few Astros moving around down there at the far end.
In our day, they didn't have that screen in front of the dugout. You had a duck, boy. There was no standing on the top step like that way back then.
Buried a couple of guys down there on that one. 1-1 to Singleton. Darvish, a check of the runners. Slow tapper foul outside first. And the count moves to 1-2. Castro began the inning by singling to center. That was followed by a Chris Carter ground ball through the hole. Mark Krause then walked to load the bases. Well, Astros at every sack. Nobody out. 1-2 the count as Darvish is ready. He steps off the pitching rubber. Well, sometimes the frustration can lead to indecision, and that's not something you want to have creep in right here. Another 1-2 pitch on the way. You know, you hear a lot about throwing a pitch with conviction. Convinced it's the right pitch to throw and it's the right location. You don't even worry about it. You just go ahead and throw it. That's the result of lack of conviction. Where you're not really sure things aren't going right and you miss by quite a bit. Fouled off. Ron Washington making some copious notes down there. He's trying to figure out how long he wants to go with Darvish. This very well could be Darvish's last hitter. Castro, Carter, and Krause, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. 2 balls, 2 strikes, the count to John Singleton. Line drive, fair down the left field line. 1 run is home. Carter around 3rd. He will score. The throw goes to 2nd. It is a 2-run double for Singleton. The Astros lead it 4-0.
the result tonight is what we've said all along. It's just lack of command with his fastball, and it's forcing him to throw pretty much all breaking balls to get strikes. And the Astro hitters have seen so many breaking balls that when one hangs, they're going to be all over it.
Yep.
And that's kind of what happened with Singleton right there. If he could have made a good pitch with his fastball, jam him with a pitch on the inside part of the plate, sink one down and away, be entirely different at bat. But when the fastballs are out of the strike zone, and then the breaking balls, you've thrown so many of them, and one hangs, he's going to have a good swing at it.
Infield in, a line drive, base hit to center field. Kraus will score. Stopping at third is Singleton. It is 5-0 in favor of the Astros, and still nobody out. And that is going to do it for Yu Darvish here tonight. Ron Washington, the slow walk out to the mound, as Matt Dominguez, with his second hit of the evening, drives in his first run. And the Astros have had 5 men come to the plate here in the 5th. They have all reached 4 hits and a walk. And Ron Washington making the sign to the bullpen. That's going to do it for Darvish here tonight. So Yu not able to get an out in the 5th inning. He will lead trailing 5-0. The 2 runners aboard are his responsibility. Nate Adcock coming in. We'll tell you about him right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. To help the Rangers help the community with the Baseball Tomorrow Fund Equipment Drive. New and gently used baseball and softball gear can be donated right now at locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Grapevine. Or if you prefer, you can drop it off at Globe Life Park on August the 11th. The equipment benefits the Texas Rangers RBI program in North Texas. And you can get more information. Just go to texasrangers.com/equipment. And a tough night for Yu Darvish. He is finished after 4+ innings, 9 hits, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts, 5 runs on his ledger as of the moment, and 2 runners aboard his responsibility. Nate Adcock charged with trying to keep them from scoring.
When Nate had that outing in, what was that, Chicago? Or Cleveland, one of the 2 places. He came in with 2nd and 3rd and nobody out. Yeah, it was in Chicago.
Yep.
And looked like he was going to pitch out of a jam in a close game. Got a couple of strikeouts and then gave up a soft single to center field to knock in the runs. But had great stuff that day. Just about pitched out of an impossible jam. 2nd and 3rd and nobody out. We got a tough jam right here. 1st and 3rd and nobody out.
Yeah, that was on Monday night in Chicago.
Catcher got a hit off him, didn't he?
Flowers.
Got
a hit off everybody, I think, in that series.
Yeah, he had a good series.
So Singleton at third, Dominguez at first. Both of them with RBI hits. Singleton a 2-run double, and Dominguez an RBI single. Marwin Gonzalez 0 for 2 tonight. A ground ball and a strikeout. And he lines one off the glove of Odor into right field, a base hit. Singleton scores. Stopping at second is Dominguez. It is a 6-0 Astro lead. Marwin Gonzalez with his 16th RBI.
He didn't waste any time. He was looking for a fastball, and he got one right near the center of the plate. And Odor almost got to this ball. He did get to it. Touched right off the top of his glove. Almost made a great play.
Well, that's the case of when you're up at double play depth, it cuts down your lateral range by a couple of steps, and if Odor is playing back at normal depth, that's probably an easy play for him. That's just the way how they say, that's the way baseball goes.
Yep, not much you can do about that.
Nope. Well, first and second now, Jake Marisnick, who has singled twice, takes low and outside for ball one. 6 consecutive Astros hitters have reached base here in the 5th inning. Still nobody out. Runners at first and second. Marisnick, an infield single in the second. A base hit to left in the 4th. 1 ball and 1 strike. Nate Adcock trying to come back from some surgery earlier in the year. Chopper cut off by Beltrade. A second for 1. Odor back to first. The double play. On to third goes Dominguez, but now he's there with 2 outs. Gregorio Petit will come up. And there's the double play grounder that Adcock was looking for.
Beltrade was playing in the exact spot where he needed to be to turn that double play. A little bit over toward shortstop, is able to catch it on a hop. And turn it on a pretty good runner.
2 outs. Petit struck out both times up there. They were against Yu Darvish. Once in the second, once in the 4th. Adcock deals a little bit low for ball 1. And Nate Adcock had that surgery to correct the thoracic outlet syndrome in March. He was a couple of months in getting himself back from that. Started pitching with AAA Round Rock the first week in June. He was able to bring him back to the big leagues. Gets a strike here to even the count at 1-1. Nate formerly time in the big leagues with Kansas City. 24 games with the Royals back in 11. In 2012, he had a dozen games, a couple starts with the Royals. To the right side right there, Rougned Odor. Sidearm flip, that'll do it. But Astros come up with a big inning. They get 4 runs on 5 hits and a lead 1. Going to the 6th. It's now 6-0 Houston. time for the Sonic Slam Inning, brought to you by Sonic. Tonight's jackpot is worth $300 and dinner for two at Sonic Drive-In. Tonight, the Rangers are hitting for Michael Marshall from Rome. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam this inning, Michael Marshall from Rome will win $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. The Rangers need a little slamming here in this inning. They trail 6-0. Scott Feldman back out to the hill. Feldman has been extremely good of late. He's retired the last 8 Rangers in a row. And he'll deal with the last Ranger to reach base. That would be Elvis Andrus to start off this 6th inning. Andrus, Robertson, and Beltre. Elvis 1 out of 2 tonight. Batting average up at 273. Feldman deals a strike to the outside corner. Astros 6 runs on 10 hits. Rangers no runs on 3 hits. They have committed the only error of the ball game. 1-1. Final line tonight for Scott Feldman's opponent, Yu Darvish. Darvish 4+ innings of work. 9 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned, 4 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Two balls and a strike. Elvis trying to start another streak. He's the only major leaguer this year with 4 hitting streaks of 10 or more games. Now 2-2. Elvis has seen his batting average rise pretty dramatically. About 13 points in the last 2 weeks.
That little kid couldn't stop smiling when he got that ball. He's trying to.
There's another base hit for Elvis over the leap of Marwin Gonzalez. So Elvis now 2 out of 3. That's how the Rangers begin the 6th inning. Now Daniel Robertson for his first at bat. With Daniel coming up, let's take a look at our AT&T U-verse rewind for tonight. Jake Marisnick leading off the 4th inning with a base hit to left field. Daniel Robertson up and throwing a 1-hop strike to get Marisnick at second.
That was all about getting in position to make the throw.
Robertson, with his first at bat of the evening, takes a strike. Daniel, 1 out of 4 last night. Had a great road trip. He's hit .429. 6 for 14 in the first 7 games of this trip. That pitch just off the outside corner. 1-1. For Daniel, you go back, on the longer haul. Here are those numbers on this trip. That were his last 13 ball games. Robertson has hit .405. Over the mound, going to be a tough play. And there's going to be interference ruled on Elvis Andrus, who ran into Gregorio Petit. And now the question apparently is raised by Daniel Robertson to first base umpire Dan DeMuth. But DeMuth, just hang on here a second. And Ron Washington out to talk to the second base umpire, Tony Randazzo, who made the call.
He's going to have a hard time throwing Daniel out at first base anyway. Well, I don't know. That's a tough call. I guess you have to give the infielder position to catch the ball, but Elvis was going in a straight line towards second base.
Now, I believe, until the ball goes by a fielder. Now, it went by Scott Feldman, but that doesn't count as a field.
No.
Until the ball goes by a fielder in his normal fielding position, you have to give the infielder the chance to field the ball.
And he really didn't have a chance to field it.
And Ron Washington apparently just raised a question with Tony Randazzo as to who initiated the contact, and Danny DeMuth being consulted.
They're talking to everybody. Wash has retreated back to the dugout. The home plate umpire, Jim Wolf, is talking to the Astro dugout. Bo Porter. Umpires are together with the infielders.
And we'll get it sorted out here in a second. It's going to be one out and Daniel Robertson at first base. So that'll be runner interference, which I believe gives the put out to the second baseman Petit. The fielder's choice for Daniel Robertson, and the 4 unassisted on the put out on the runner's interference. So 1 on, 1 out now. Adrian Beltre is the hitter, and Beltre pounds one to deep left center field. Going back is Krause. He is at the wall and makes the kick. Robertson about 3/4 away to second has to retrace his steps, and Beltre gave it a pretty good ride. I don't think the way the ball jumped off Adrian's bat that he got quite all of that.
No, I don't think he got all of it either. And it's one of those plays where in this ballpark, the left fielder can play over toward center field because of how short it is to left field. And that's why you see Krause way out there in left center field, pretty much waiting for the ball to come down. Now, he gave it a good ride, but I don't think he got it square.
So 2 outs now. Robertson still at first. Here's Jim Adduci, who is 0 for 2. Feldman hits the outside corner with strike 1. Adduci has hit a foul pop, and he's also grounded to first. Scott Feldman just at the 90-pitch plateau here in the 6th inning. Pitch in the dirt. Nice stop by Jason Castro. 1 ball and 1 strike. Like Tim Bogar and Ron Washington trying to explain to Elvis what should have happened to avoid the interference. Adduci, a drive to right field and deep. Going back is Grossman. Goodbye. Jim Adduci with his first home run of the year. And that gets the Rangers on the board and cuts the Astros lead to 6-2.
Well, Beltre came close to left field, and Adduci just barely got one out. But we do have a winner, Buzz.
Michael Marshall from Rome, a $300 winner. $300. Michael, enjoy that and your dinner for 2 at Sonic Drive-In. Adduci getting that pitch on the inner part of the plate. Stayed up for him, and he was able to turn on it. Now J.P. Arancibia.
Good pitch to hit. Put a good swing on it. And hit it to the front row.
Oh, Adduci's first home run for the Rangers, their 86th of the year. And Arancibia takes the breaking ball wide. It's 1 ball and 1 strike.
Looking real quick at the rule book, Buzz, though, one thing I can come up with quickly is a runner who is adjudged to have hindered a fielder who is attempting to make a play on a batted ball is out, whether it was intentional or not. So that pretty much what it looked like, didn't it?
towering fly ball to left off the bat of Aducey. Back there is Cross right next to where the Crawford box jut out. 10 more feet to the left, and Aaron Sebia probably has it in the Crawford box. No such luck. The Rangers, though, get a couple of runs on Jim Aducey's first home run of the year after 5.5. 6-2 Astros. Texas Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. The Ford Summer Spectacular Sales Event, now playing at a Ford dealer near you. And Elvis is getting a little tutorial out there from the second base umpire, Tony Randazzo. Probably asking the same questions that anybody in that situation would have. How do I avoid him? Or when do I not have to avoid him? Tony Randazzo giving him advice, clarification on the rule. Nate Adcock going to work here against Bobby Grossman, the #1 man in the order. Grossman, Castro, and Carter here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Grossman tonight, another good night. He is 1 for 2. Walked and scored in the first, singled in the second, grounded out in the 4th inning. And Adcock dealing to the outside corner, makes it a ball and 2 strikes. Nate Adcock came in with runners at first and third, taking Yu Darvish's spot in the 5th inning. Gave up an RBI single to Marwin Gonzalez, but then got a double play and a ground out into the inning. Rangers came back and scored 2, almost scored 3. And Sebia's long fly ball just to the right of home run territory. 3-2 now to Grossman. Adcock to the wind, the payoff pitch. Hit him. That hit everybody. Deflected off of Grossman, got part of Giovanni Soto, and then got Jim Wolf, the home plate umpire.
That just really got away from Nate. The ball was 2 feet inside.
Well, the hit batter puts Grossman at first. It's the 3rd time that Grossman is a leadoff man tonight, has been on. Jason Castro started off that 4-run 5th inning for the Astros with a base hit to center field. 1 for 3 tonight. That batting average at .232. One ball, no strikes. Adcock reading the signs from Giovanni Soto. And this is low and outside. 2 balls, no strikes. Ranger defense shifted around to the right side for Castro. Elvis has to be close enough to the bag, though, to cover on a ground ball to someone else. He's got to turn that double play if he gets the chance. Off the end of the bat, Beltre dives and can't come up with it. Around second, headed for third is Grossman. He will make it. And a little cue shot, but perfectly placed off the bat of Jason Castro. And the Astros back at it. They have runners at the corners and nobody out.
Well, that was going to be a double play if Adrian could have caught it. But it just eluded him. I don't know if it would have been a double play if he had to dive for it, but if he could have reached it on the run, had a pretty good chance to turn it. That would have been a fun play for Adrian. Flip it underhand to second base like a shortstop. And went off his glove, but Castro gets his second hit of the ball game.
Well, first and third, still nobody out. Rangers going into an overshift with 3 players on the left side for Chris Carter. And now they shift back a little more conventionally. Carter a check swing on the first pitch from Adcock. It is strike 1. Odor now back to a couple of steps on the first base side of second. Carter 1 for 2. He has scored twice tonight. Singled and walked, scored both times. Also grounded out. 0-2 the count.
Good movement on that ball, really sunk.
And that pitch called strike 3. Tailing back to the outside corner. And Carter caught admiring that Adcock offering. 1 gone.
Yeah, it came back too. He thought it was outside, but our Fox tracks shows that it just came back and caught the outside corner. Good pitch by Nate. First and third with nobody out. Get the big guy in the middle of the lineup. Now turn that double play.
Well, Mark Krause now will face Adcock. Krause 0 for 2 with a walk. Rangers just about straight away on the infield. Maybe a step to the right. The outfield shading Krause well around to the right side. And a big swing and a miss. It's 0-1. Good overhead look at the Ranger defensive lineman. Adrian Beltre well off the line at third. Trying to cut that hole down in case Krause happens to hit one slowly that way. Chopper to first, stepping on the bag and then nowhere to throw it for J.P. Arancibia. The run is home. Into second base safely is Jason Castro, and the Astros get a run. It's now 7-2 Houston.
And that kind of play is going to be tough to turn a double play. Probably the best play is to field it and go home with it and try to get the runner at the plate so you don't give up another run. JP is thinking turn double play, but you know, once you step on the bag, now it's not a force out. If the runner stops, the run's going to score anyway. The only way to get a double play and keep the run from scoring is to throw it to second right off the bat.
Well, you won't harp on it, but again, the inexperience for Arancibia playing first base, and it's going to happen. You know, he's had some plays that you don't normally see a first baseman have to make, but that's one where decisions have to be made based on a lot of experience, and JP just hasn't had the experience there.
Yeah, that's a tough one because that's an in-between ground ball, not hit very hard, tough to turn a double play. And even if you field it and throw home, it's going to be a close play because the runner is breaking right off the bat at third base. So he didn't have a perfect option either way. He did get one out at first, but if he had to do it again, I think he might have come toward the ball and fired home to try to get the lead runner, don't you?
And, I think so. And being since he was holding the runner at first, he already had a step in toward home plate anyway.
Yeah.
And I would think that would have been you can't have indecision. Whatever you're going to do, you've got to do it immediately without having to think about it. And JP just couldn't get that done.
It's obviously a situation where you're down by 4. You don't want to give up another run unless there's nothing you can do about it.
So John Singleton, who is 2 for 2 tonight. He's had an RBI single back in the first inning, a 2-run double in the 5th inning. 3 RBI and 35 for the year. Also walked this evening. Got Jason Castro at second base. A 1-ball, 2-strike count. That breaking ball just a little bit low. 2-2. Adcock, a long look into Giovanni Soto. Now the right-hander is set to go. And that is low. 3-2 to Singleton. You've got first base open, the left-hander Singleton, right-handed hitting Matt Dominguez is in the on-deck circle. Well, it wouldn't be the worst thing if you were to try and make a great pitch on Singleton and lost him to the walk. No. Now the payoff pitch. That's out of play to the left. Astros leading 7-2, and Nate Adcock trying to get John Singleton to keep it right there. Astros this year 233 with runners in scoring position tonight. 5 for 14. Got Jason Castro out there at second base, and Adcock started into the stretch, stepped off the pitching rubber, and he wants Giovanni Soto to go back through the signs. Another 3-2 is coming. Ball 4. Lost him, tried to hit that inside corner. And that'll put 2 aboard for Matt Dominguez, and Mike Maddox going to go out to the mound. But John Singleton has been aboard all 4 times tonight. 2 walks and 2 hits. Mike going out there to talk to Nate Adcock and Giovanni Soto. Astros with 11 hits tonight. Also had 5 walks and a hit batter. Now home plate umpire Jim Wolf going to go out and put in his 2 cents worth. Come on, guys. 2 on and 2 out. Dominguez 2 for 3. Pair of singles. Second of his 2 singles in the 5th inning drove in a run. He was the last hitter that Yu Darvish faced tonight. Got Castro at second, Singleton at first. Dominguez a 233 average, and Adcock's first pitch to him is a belt high strike. Adcock a check of second. 0-2. Adcock, a 26-year-old from Elizabethtown, Kentucky. The 0-2. Hancock originally with the Seattle Mariners, their 5th round selection in the 06 draft. Went over to Pittsburgh in a trade, then Kansas City. Got Adcock from Pittsburgh in a Rule 5 draft. Ground ball out to Odor. And that'll do it. And the Astros come up with a run on 1 hit. They lead 2. We're going to the 7th inning. It's now the Astros 7 and the Rangers 2. Our Ford game summary shows you a big outburst by the Astros in that 5th inning, a 4 spot. Astros leading 7-2. They have out hit the Rangers 11-5. Jim Adducci with it. Meanwhile, Scott Feldman, 6 innings of work, 5 strikeouts, 95 pitches for the former Ranger. And he is about ready to start the 7th inning. He'll be facing Leonys Martin.
Yeah, the Rangers got to Scott a little bit in the 2nd inning. Of course, they had the 2-run homer, but there were also some pretty good swings in that inning. Beltre just missed one to left field, and Aaron Sibia hit one sky high to the base of the wall. Warning track anyway out in left field. He just missed one too. Some good swings in the 6th.
Leonys Martin is grounded out twice tonight, 0 for 2. Currently hitting at .255, and Feldman's first pitch on the inside corner for strike 1. Rangers with 5 hits, 2 of them coming in that 6th inning. 1-1. Martin, Soto, and Odor. Rangers trying to climb back in this game. They put 2 on the board in the 6th, trying to get that lead down to a manageable size. Astros got 1 in the bottom of the 6th to eat away a little bit at the Ranger dent. 1-2 to Martin. Scott Feldman making his 5th career start against his former club. And calls strike 3. That slow hook coming in through the back door. Leonys didn't think so, but he becomes the 6th strikeout victim for Scott Feldman.
That's such a hard pitch to hit. It looks outside. You don't feel like you can reach it. And then right at the end, it just comes back and barely touches the outside corner. But all you could hope to do if you swung at that pitch is maybe foul it off or cue it off the end of the bat down the left field line.
Well, that on our pitch tracker showing you that just nestled against the outside corner.
Just a perfect pitch.
Yep.
And when a good pitcher makes a perfect pitch, not many hitters are going to do much with it.
And Giovanni Soto, a ground ball that is cut down by Gonzalez, but he has no play. Marlon Gonzalez a dive and came up with the ball, but he was in shallow center field. And Giovanni Soto with an infield single.
He had to go a long way to chase that thing down. He wants to fire this ball, but decides not to.
Gonzalez knew with the catcher running, if he could get to it, he might have had a shot. But
that's what he was thinking all the way.
Go a little further than he wanted to. So 1 on, 1 out. Rougned Odor 0 for 2, steps to the plate. Pitch outside to him. 1 ball, no strikes. Odor has grounded out and struck out. Average at 252. Velvin okays the sign. A check of Soto at first. 1-1. Rougned had a 4-game hitting streak coming into play tonight. With the 0 for 2, he's now 4 out of 16 in the last 5 games. Two and 1. Volkanovich throwing in the Astros pen. One of their young starters by trade in the minor leagues. Using him out of the bullpen to manage his innings more than anything else. Strike 2, and that evens the count. Jason Castro flashing the signs out for Scott Feldman. Loop to left field. That's going to fall for a base hit. That's a pretty nice piece of hitting by Rougned Odor.
Yeah, I think that was almost in the same location as the one to Martin, and he did reach out and slap it into left field. Let's see if it's the same kind of pitch. That's pretty much the exact same thing, maybe even a better pitch. So I guess you can do more than just foul it off. If you reach out, you can line it into left field if you take a great swing at it.
Odor with his first hit of the night. Rangers have 2 aboard with 1 out. Brent Strom, the Astros pitching coach, is headed out to the mound. Rangers now are going back to the top of the order for Shin-Soo Choo. And while we have a moment here, we'd like to remind you there's one more chance to see a great post-game concert this season. That's coming up on Saturday, August 16th. Budweiser presents the Joe Nichols concert. That comes after the 7:05 game against the Angels. Tickets and passes to watch the concert from the field are available at TexasRangers.com/concerts. The conference concluded, and Shin-Soo Choo will step in against Scott Feldman. Choo 2 for 3 tonight, a single and a double. Last time up, he struck out. Got Soto at second, Odor at first. 0-1. Choo on this road trip now with 8 hits and 31 at bats. Fastball spins him around. 1 ball and 1 strike. Feldman gets the sign, a check of second. 2-1. All of a sudden, Scott Feldman in a little bit of trouble with that breaking ball. Not quite getting it to attack the strike zone. The last few that he has thrown. Soto with an infield single at second base. Rooting at Odor, a single to left field. And a base hit to right field by Chu. Soto is going to be held at third as he had to make sure that line drive went through. And that will load the bases now with one out. And Elvis Andrus coming up. And that might be the last we see of Scott Feldman here tonight.
I think when you combine the swings that the Rangers had in the 6th inning with the swing that they've had here in the 7th inning, they're starting to get to Feldman, and he's starting to make some pitches that he wasn't making earlier in the game. Good game for Chu, who's hit the ball hard 3 times, 2 singles and a double. 3 for 4 for Shin-Soo.
Well, between Andrus and Chu, have 5 hits and 7 times to the plate. And here is Elvis with a chance to do some real damage for the Rangers. They trail 7-2. Now Jason Castro has to make a trip out to the mound. Add a little time. Give the bullpen more of an opportunity to get ready. Got Soto at third, Odor at second, and Chu at first. Elvis has singled each of his last 2 times at the plate. And now Cole Porter, so that's plenty of time. I'm going to go out there and probably make the pitching change right here, giving my guys enough time to get themselves ready in the bullpen. So Porter on out there, and Scott Feldman will be through after 6 1/3 tonight. He leaves leading 7-2. But he leaves with the bases loaded also and 1 out here in the 7th inning. It's a nice round of applause from the folks at Minute Maid. And the bullpen is being called. We're going to have a pitching change. Josh Fields is coming in, but that will tell you about him right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. It's August the 22nd. The first 15,000 fans, 14 and older, attending the game against the Royals, receive a Nolan Ryan replica jersey. It's sponsored by Dr. Pepper and Tom Thumb Food and Pharmacy. Get your tickets at TexasRangers.com. Scott Feldman, after 6 1/3, becomes a cheerleader on the Astros bench. Good outing by Scott tonight again, and he gives way to Josh Fields.
Well, Fields' numbers on the season, pretty good opponent's batting average. A lot of strikeouts, 58 strikeouts in 42 innings.
And Josh Fields facing Elvis Andrus with the bases full. Andrus 0 for 4 in his career with a couple of strikeouts against Fields.
Trying to figure out how his ERA is so high. He's only given up 2 home runs. He's only walked 12. Struck out 58 in 42 innings. His ERA is 4.71.
To right center field, moving over is the right fielder Grossman. He makes the catch. Tagging at third Coming in to score, Giovanni Soto on to third as he tagged up Rougned Odor, and Elvis Andrus with a sacrifice fly makes it a 7-3 Astros lead. Well, you were hoping for more, but that was the least you wanted to get, that sac fly, plating one. Now with 2 outs and runners at the corners, Daniel Robertson comes up. Elvis driving in his 31st run of the year with that sacrifice fly. Robertson 0 for 1 since coming on to take the place of Mike Karp. Karp left with a strained left groin muscle. Out of play to the right. 0-1 to Robertson. Rangers trailing by 4 once again. Robertson, one of their hottest hitters. Daniel with 6 hits in his last 9 times to the plate. As Odor at third, Chu at first. And Fields misses off the outside corner. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Fields, a 28, soon to be 29-year-old out of Athens, Georgia. One and 2.
He's got a good fastball, mid-90s fastball, with a little bit of movement on it too.
Fields, a University of Georgia product. Originally the 20th overall pick of the 2008 draft by the Seattle Mariners. 1-2 pitch. Got him swinging. Fields bringing it, and he gets the strikeout. Rangers thwarted a bit. They get a run on 3 hits, but lead 2. And it's stretch time at Minute Maid. 7-3 Astros. Here at Minute Maid Park, it's time now to reveal our fan photo selection of the night, brought to you by AT&T. And this picture, courtesy of Jessica. Thank you very much, Jessica. We appreciate that. And you folks would like to tweet your photos, hashtag Southwest Fan Photo. We'll make a selection for each game that we have here on Fox Sports Southwest. We appreciate the good folks at AT&T making that possible. Have a 7-3 Houston lead. Rangers have scored in each of the last 2 innings, but still trail by 4. As we head to the bottom of the 7th, and Phil Klein, tall right-hander, coming on to take over for Nate Adcock.
Well, Phil's only pitched a couple of times. He's given up a couple of home runs, one in each one of those appearances. And he's been around here now for about a week or so, so hopefully he's gotten rid of those early big league jitters that if you don't have those, you must not be breathing.
Yeah.
And maybe he can settle down and let his natural ability shine through.
Well, last time we saw Phil Klein, he was in Cleveland on Sunday afternoon, and in extra innings gave up the game-winning home run to Michael Brantley. And of course, Phil, an Ohioan, went to Youngstown State University, and had a lot of friends and family at Progressive Field in Cleveland, so not the easiest of debuts. He had 2 outings there, and neither went as well as he would have liked.
No.
He will deal here to the bottom 3rd of the Astros order. It'll be Gonzalez, Marisnick, and Petit. Phil at 6 feet 7 inches tall, uncoils and throws a strike to the outside corner. Gonzalez 1 for 3 tonight. Marwin an RBI single in the 5th inning. Now with 16 runs driven in, the switch hitting shortstop. Trying to bunt his way aboard and pull the bat back. A ball and a strike. Phil Klein, the 30th round pick of the Rangers back in 2011. One and two. Klein, you remember, had the sensational numbers down in the minor leagues this year. Had not given up an extra base hit and held opponents to a 133 average, 132 average for the year, and averaged almost 14 strikeouts per 9 innings with Frisco, and then he had 9 games at Round Rock. He had 28 strikeouts in 18 innings. 1 and 2 to Gonzalez. Now time called. Line ready for the 1-2. Hard hit. And picked off nicely by Odor, gliding to his left. 1 gone. And before Marisnick comes up, let's take time for a Mazda game break once again with John Radigan. All right, John, thank you. The Astros on top by 4 at 7-3 Houston. Base is empty for Jake Marisnick, who is 2 for 3 in a pair of singles. And last time I've grounded into a double play. Talking about Marisnick last night and what happens when Dexter Fowler comes back. Bo Porter made it pretty clear today that Dexter Fowler is their starting center fielder, and Marisnick will probably move to the left field position when Fowler comes back. Bo Porter saying that's what we got Dexter Fowler for.
Exactly.
Center field.
Not going to move him now. And he was playing pretty well before he got hurt, too. That was a an injury they couldn't afford to have.
0-2 pitch from Klein. Call strike 3.
Yes, sir.
Marisnik eyeballing that one right into Soto's glove for the 3rd strike. 2 gone.
Well, Fowler was hitting at the top of the order and had a .377 on base percentage. So he was getting the job done and playing some good defense. And Phil Klein getting the job done today. Ground ball out and a called 3rd strike. Definitely in the strike zone.
Next will be Gregorio Petit, the number 9 hitter. Petit 0 for 3. A couple of strikeouts, a ground out tonight. And a chopper Beltre near the bag at 3rd sets. And that'll do it. So a very nifty inning for Phil Klein. 9 pitches and 3 up, 3 down. On to the 8th. 7-3 Astros. Leading this ball game 7-3 as the Rangers come to bat in the top of the 8th inning. Tomorrow afternoon we will finish things off for this series here at Minute Maid Park. Nick Martinez on the hill trying to snap a lengthy losing streak. He's 1-8 and he'll be opposed by the left-hander Dallas Keuchel. At least that's the latest information we have. Keuchel coming in 10-7 this year in 21 starts, a very fine 2.89 ERA. So that'll be a 1 p.m. start right here on Fox Sports Southwest. Adrian Beltre 0 for 3 tonight, facing Josh Fields for the first time. Fields misses with the first pitch. Beltre has lined to left, grounded out, and then flied to rather deep left center field. 316 the average. Fields drops in that 73-mile-an-hour bender for a strike. Beltre leading the Rangers with those 16 home runs, 61 RBI. Takes outside, 2 balls and a strike. Fields ready. And Beltre fouls it off. 2-2 now. Astros got Josh Fields on a Rule 5 pick from the Boston organization. It was right after the 2012 season, that December. Into center field. That is going to fall for a base hit. Adrian with his first hit of the night. A leadoff single here in the 8th. That'll bring up Jim Adduci.
Well, 95-mile-an-hour high fastballs, probably 4 or 5 inches above the strike zone, that Adrian just kind of tomahawked into center field for his base hit.
I don't think Adrian's seen a high fastball he hasn't liked yet. Jim Ducey, his first home run of the year last time up. It was a 2-run blast off of Scott Feldman. Takes the off-speed pitch. 4 strike 1. Jimmy John's freaky fast delivery of the ball game. That takes you back to Jim Ducey's at bat in the 6th inning, and that didn't take long to get out of here. That was a freaky fast delivery from Jim Ducey, courtesy of Scott Feldman and Jimmy Johns. Tried to check his swing about halfway through and couldn't. It's 0-2. Jim now the average at 231. RBI total up to 7. Got Beltre at first, nobody out. Here in the top of the 8th inning. And he popped it up. Castro off with a mask in foul territory right in front of the Ranger dugout. 1 gone. Fields got a Ducey out on his front foot, and not much Jim could do with that. Next will be J.P. Arancibia. J.P. 0 for 2 with a walk this evening. Last time up, his direction was just a little bit off. He hit it about 7 or 8 feet just to the right of where the Crawford boxes stop. Had it been 7 or 8 feet, maybe 10 feet left of that, he would have had a home run. He would have been 3 rows back. But as it was, right at that corner, there's just enough room for Mark Krause to haul it in. Would not have been a surprise for JP the way he's swinging the bat. 7 home runs since the All-Star break. It tied for the most in the major league.
Yeah, he's had probably 3 or 4 that he just barely got under, too.
It's a rocket there to short, and picking it right off the dirt. Here's Marwin Gonzalez for out number 2. No 2 gone. Here's Leonis Martin, who is 0 for 3. Little cue shot foul down to Gary Pettis. And Gary makes a nice play on it. And as always, turning around to see if he can throw it to the cutoff man.
Let's see if he hits the cutoff man. Nope, threw it over the cutoff man's head. The trailer's got it.
They come out tomorrow for early work. The 0-1 pitch. Upstairs at 96.
That's 2 tough pitches. The first one was a slow pitch that he cued right off the end of the bat because he was out in front of it. And he comes back with the next one at 96 miles an hour and a little bit behind it.
I'm not sure he throws anything in between that. He's the problem. You got to slow it down or speed it up. The 0-2. Making that glove pop at 96 again. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Like Scott Baker down there. Yeah. Multi-use Scott Baker. The 1-2 pitch. And that evens the count.
He wasn't ready for that one. He's looking out over the plate. Whoa.
Don't have a whole lot of time to adjust.
No, you don't.
Or get out of the way. Beltre, the modest lead from first. And this is popped up. Foul territory. Another chance for Castro. Makes the grab. And that will do it. And the leadoff single by Beltre goes for naught. He is left stranded after 7.5. The Astros 7 and the Rangers 3. To the bottom of the 8th inning, and Scott Baker on to work this 8th inning. He'll face the top of the order. Scott Baker coming into a game that sees the Astros leading 7-3. They've out-hit the Rangers 11-9 tonight.
And the numbers for Scott: his 19th ball game. He's had starts, long relief outings of 5 or 6 innings. You name it, he's had it. Good strikeout to walk ratio. One thing that stands out on the negative side would be the home runs, and a lot of them came a little bit earlier. One thing you can't deny, Scott has taken the ball whenever he's been asked to take it, and in a lot of cases when there was no one else to take it.
Yeah. Ron Washington has utilized Scott Baker, utilized all of his skills and experience to put him in different roles.
Yeah.
And it does take a guy that's been around the block a couple of times to do everything that Scott Baker's done.
I think so too.
One time. That's not easy. 1-1 to Robbie Grossman. The rip and a miss. It is 1-2. Grossman has been on 3 times tonight. He has been hit by a pitch and walked. He's also singled 1 out of 2 officially. Grossman has scored a couple of runs. So doing a great job in the leadoff spot against the Rangers tonight. And that pitch spins him around about halfway. It is 2-2. In case you missed it, Jose Altuve out of the starting lineup tonight. The neck problem bothered him last night. He may be available tomorrow. Grossman, though, doing a great job at the top of the Astros order. A full count. Baker to the wind, the payoff pitch. High ball 4. He lost him, a leadoff walk.
Another example of the eye that Robbie Grossman has at the plate. He's had a hit by pitch, which would have been ball 4, and a walk. He's had 2 walks in the hit by pitch. And technically, he's walked 3 times in the game. One goes down as a hit by pitch, obviously. Would have been ball 4, and a base hit. They're looking for a leadoff guy. This is their best candidate right here. Altuve, of course, Altuve could lead off on their team. He'd be a third-place hitter. You name it, he could hit anywhere.
That's right.
So Altuve, I guess, is the ideal leadoff guy because he can put you ahead 1-0 with one swing of the bat. But Grossman, at least the way he's playing right now, playing like a potential top-of-the-order guy for him with his on-base percentage.
Certainly against the Rangers.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Now, Grossman aboard. Jason Castro, who has singled each of his last 2 times at the plate, took strike 1. Baker back to him. 0-2. Castro struck out his first 2 times up. And then the 3rd time up against Yu Darvish started the 4-run uprising in the 5th inning. It eventually led to Darvish's demise from the ball game. He left with nobody out in that 4th. In the 5th, I should say. And Castro gone for the 3rd time tonight on strikes. Well, it's either been the penthouse or the basement for Jason Castro. A 1 away now. Scott Baker will face Chris Carter. Carter 0 for 2 in his career against Scott Baker. 1 on, 1 out, and the pitch is popped up. Well back and out of play over the Astros dugout on the first base side. 0-1.
Talking about Grossman, I just looked at his overall line in the minor leagues. He had a season in the minor leagues where he walked 104 times.
You don't see that very often in the minor leagues.
No, you don't. They don't play that many games to walk 104.
Next pitch to Carter. Ball pasted into left center, going over Robertson. It's back in all the way to the wall. Grossman around third. He will score without a throw, and Chris Carter, an RBI double, makes it 8-3 Astros.
Well, Carter stays hot. 2 more hits and a walk. Scored a couple and knocked in one now. Kind of his sweet spot, it looks like, right there, down in the strike zone.
Even with Danny Robertson playing off the line a little bit with that short left field, he was not able to get over there and cut it off. That ball was really smoked.
Much time to get over and get that one.
Well, Carter with his 59th run driven in. Now Mark Krause, the hitter, takes strike 1 from Scott Baker. Krause an RBI last time up on a ground out. 0 for 3 officially tonight. He has scored a run, driven in his 20th of the year. Got Chris Carter out at second base. 1 out here in the 8th inning. 1 ball, or no balls and 2 strikes. Baker back up on top of the hill. Scott working from the extreme first base side of that pitcher's rubber. One and two. Giovanni Soto flashing the signs for Scott Baker. And the right-hander back to the plate. Got him swinging. The fastball up pretty close to letter high. Krause couldn't catch up. 2 gone. And John Singleton now will step in.
Pretty much the same pitch that Castro missed. Kind of tailing away upper part of the strike zone. Got both the left-hand hitters to miss that pitch.
Well, both outs in this inning that have come on the strikeout. John Singleton has not been retired by the Rangers tonight. He has walked twice, singled, and doubled, and driven in 3. Rangers another pretty good strikeout total against the Astros. 11 tonight.
Well, they've swung and missed a lot, and they've connected on a few too. So they've gotten their hits, and how many teams strike out more than they do?
11 strikeouts, 12 hits, and I guess that's 8 runs is what counts.
That's what counts.
0-1. Scott Baker trying to get out of this 8th inning with no further damage. Astros have scored a run. They have a 5-run advantage in the ball game. John Singleton waiting, and Baker back to him. 1-2.
He's going for it.
He's going to screw himself in the ground so far. He's going to hit oil down here. Baker okays a sign, a check of second. And called strike 3. Baker ends up striking out the side. Let the Astros get a run on a hit and lead one. We're going to the 9th. It's the Astros 8 and the Rangers 3. Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Find Southwest Airlines fares online only at southwest.com. By AT&T U-verse TV. Find out what's possible with AT&T. Call 1-800-PIT-ATT, mobilizing your world. And by your Texas Ford dealer. The Ford Summer Spectacular Sales Event, now playing at a Ford dealer near you. Now, the 9th inning, the Rangers need some work to do, have some work to do to catch up. They trail 8-3, and Mike Fultonevich, the right-hander, has come in to pitch the 9th inning. He will have a new left fielder. Here's the numbers on Fultonevich.
Yeah, Fultonevich is one of those young kids that they're counting on to be in the rotation sometime down the road.
The new left fielder, L.J. Hose, has come in, as he did last night, taking over defensively for Mark Krause. Fultonevich fires a strike. It is 1-1 to Giovanni Soto. Soto singled his last time up, 1 for 3 tonight. Off speed. Swung on and missed. Just outside. 2-2 now. Boltonevich, the 22-year-old from Illinois. He misses high. He was the first-round selection by the Astros in the 2010 draft.
Definitely got a good arm. Last two fastballs, 97 with some movement on him.
Soto fouls off the next pitch. That was 98. The Astros trying to manage the innings for Boltonevich. You mentioned the starter. They brought him up here and put him in the bullpen for that express purpose. They wanted to get exposed to the major leagues, but also want to be able to keep his innings at a manageable level. They felt they could better do that by having him under their thumb, so to speak, at the big league level. Bo Porter, and his pitcher goes Brent Strom. Another 3-2 pitch. And he's swinging. 96 with some sink. Oh, one gone.
Doesn't look tired. That's a pretty good movement on it and great velocity.
Well, one gone. Now Rougned Odor will step in. Odor 1 for 3, and that single came in the 7th inning. On the outside corner, 0-1. Ball kind of rushes to home plate.
It does.
Boltonevich back to the plate. There's an even 100 for you.
The fans noticed that one.
Yep.
Tough not to.
Boltonevich, the 0-2 pitch. Skied around home plate. Foul territory. Dominguez coming in, calling off Castro, and Matt Dominguez makes the catch for out number 2. Well, Boltonevich now a strikeout, a foul pop. 2 gone. He will face Shin-Soo Choo. Boltonevich a top of 100 and the bottom at 82 tonight.
I think I read the other day where there's been 8 pitchers throw 100 miles an hour this year. I don't know if he was one of the 8. He might be the 9th. If I did read that.
I think that's right. I think I read
the same thing.
Either that or we had the same
dream.
Same dream, yeah.
That's pretty scary.
It is. Breaking ball is outside to Choo. 3 for 4 tonight. He's had a pair of singles, a double. Boltonevich to the wide, the 1-1 pitch.
Oh, pretty good combination of pitches. 100-mile-an-hour fastball and Uncle Charlie.
Well, the crowd here
would be the closer.
On their feet. If he could do that for 9 innings, I think you're going to run him out there every 5th day or so.
Yeah.
The 1-2 pitch. Base hit to right field.
But that is the best sign that we've seen from Choo tonight.
Yep.
He's got 4 hits tonight, and he's been struggling to hit the fastball. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing different tonight, but over the last month and a half, he has not been able to get out in front of a good fastball like that. And that was kind of up in the strike zone, too, at 97 or 8 miles an hour. He got out in front of it and ripped it into right field. So 4 hits, all of them well hit by Choo tonight. That's a great sign to see Shin-Soo swing the bat like that.
Well, the Rangers now in double figures with 10 base hits. Choo aboard with 2 outs. And Elvis Andrus is 2 for 3 with a sacrifice fly. Takes ball 1. Elvis' sacrifice fly came in the 7th inning. That was his last at bat. Chu was going to go to second. Nobody paying attention to him. The defensive indifference. 1 ball and 1 strike to Elvis. Big breaking ball, and Elvis now down to the count and a ball and 2 strikes. That last base hit, by the way, against Fultonevich, the 1,000th career hit for Shin-Soo Choo. Fultonevich has the signs. The right-hander a check of second. Elvis trying to cheat a little bit on that fastball just in case.
Trying to bunt one into right field for a base hit.
Like solid contact on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, you may have a check swing and be a double down the line. Still 1-2. Right center field, Marisnik over into the alley, makes the catch, and that will do it. Rangers get tonight for strand a runner, and the Astros